Chapter 1475. Xian Sheng and Xiao Yuanshan's battle could be said to have caused sand to fly and rocks to roll. Xian Sheng relied on his indestructible body to recklessly attack Wuji. Every move was powerful, and some of the small trees on the side were affected by the wind from the palms of the battle and were all broken. Xiao Yuanshan had a lot of battle experience, and after realizing that he had the indestructible body, he did not rush to attack. Instead, he dispelled his attacks while saving energy to wait for an opportunity. Xian Sheng quickly realized what he was thinking, but he had no choice. After using the indestructible body, his defense could indeed be said to be invincible, but there were gains and losses, and his agility would greatly decrease. Against normal experts, it was not a big deal, but against experts of Xiao Yuanshan's level, if the opponent wanted to dodge, it would be very difficult for his attacks to hit the opponent. Surnamed Xiao, if you have the ability, then don't run around. Xian Sheng shouted angrily as his killing moves hit empty air. Xiao Yuanshan laughed coldly. Knowing that you have the indestructible body protecting you, I still want to fight you head on. Do you think this old man is stupid? The tribes on the grassland all worshipped wolves, and even their battle tactics were inspired by wolves. Wolves had always been cunning and ferocious. When dealing with large animals, they often did not attack directly. Instead, they would constantly fight to consume their physical strength, and when the time was right, they would launch a general attack. Xian Sheng was extremely angry, and suddenly his eyes glanced at Xiao Feng, Azu, and Zi, and instantly a plan came to his mind. A Prajna Palm was originally going to attack Xiao Yuanshan, but it suddenly changed direction halfway and directly attacked the heavily injured Xiao Feng. Before he even arrived, the wind from his palm had already swept up the sand, forcing Azu and Zi to be unable to open their eyes. But Xiao Feng was not Duan Yu, who had high theoretical martial arts, but was often killed by sneak attacks. He was always on guard, and although Xian Sheng's attack was a bit unexpected, he did not care at all, and instantly used the softness of the 18 dragons subduing palms, drawing the opponent's cold palm energy to the side. With a boom, a large rock was smashed by Xian Sheng's palm. Despicable! Xiao Yuanshan shouted angrily, and with a leap, he attacked Xian Sheng's back. In the tree, Zhao Min nodded in agreement. This monk is indeed despicable. However, Song Qingshu smiled and said, I don't think there's any problem with Xian Sheng's move. As the saying goes, it's a battle of wits, not a battle of strength. Besides, isn't scheming exactly what the princess is good at? You're so annoying, Zhao Min lightly punched him, but her attention quickly returned to the stage. Although Xiao Feng had neutralized Xian Sheng's sharp attack, he still felt somewhat uncomfortable. His face flushed slightly, and he felt the qi and blood in his body churning. Clearly, his injuries had been aggravated. However, he had the physique of the god of war, and being injured at this time seemed to have ignited his bloodthirsty aura. Not only did he not retreat, but he also used the 18 dragons subduing palms, intending to take advantage of this moment to attack Xian Sheng from the front and back with his father. Even though Xian Sheng had the protection of the Vajra invincible divine art, he did not dare to use his body to withstand the simultaneous attack of two great masters. He hastily flew back. However, Xiao Feng and his son were extremely powerful. Even though Xian Sheng was hailed as the #1 person in Shaolin in the last 200 years, he was still beaten into a sorry state by them. Northern Xiao Feng, Southern Murong. In my opinion, this Northern Xiao Feng is more than 10 times stronger than Southern Murong. Zhao Min, who was on the tree, could not help but praise. 10 times would be an exaggeration, but it shouldn't be a problem for him to fight 2 Murong Fus, Song Qingshu commented. He had fought with both of them before, so he was very clear about their strengths. Murong Fu's martial arts were actually very high. After he had received the 18 dragon subduing palms that Song Qingshu had given him, his martial arts had improved by another level. In theory, he was not much weaker than Xiao Feng and was worthy of being called Southern Murong, who is equally famous as him. However, his biggest problem was that he was wholeheartedly focused on restoring his country. He had too many concerns and too many thoughts, so he was often unable to unleash his martial arts at his normal level. On the other hand, Xiao Feng could always unleash at least 120% of his strength. Catch the monk's staff. Seeing that Xian Sheng was in a difficult situation, Xian Si flicked her sleeves, and the monk's staff that Xian Sheng had stabbed into the ground earlier flew towards him. At the same time, the Kasaya on her body surged like a raging wave, attacking Xiao Feng. Kasaya Demon's subduing technique. Xiao Feng did not dare to be careless. He hurriedly used the dragon capturing technique and pulled a large rock from the side over to block in front of him. When the bright red Kasaya came into contact with the large rock, it instantly wrapped around it. Then, with a loud bang, the rock was twisted into pieces. Immediately after, Xian Si suddenly leaped out of the smoke and dust that filled the sky and directly attacked Xiao Feng. Xiao Feng's expression changed. He had no choice but to let go of Xian Sheng and face the new enemy. Unexpectedly, when their palms collided, Xiao Feng did not feel a power that could topple mountains and overturn the seas. Instead, he felt that his strength had hit a ball of cotton. He immediately realized that this was because Xian Si had used the most exquisite technique of the Prajna palm, emptiness to end, to dissolve the power of his palm. Amipa. Xian Si took advantage of the power of the palm to retreat a distance. The Kasaya that was in midair just happened to fall on his body. Benefactor Xiao is injured. This old monk also does not want to take advantage of others. I only want to stop you and your father from joining hands to attack junior brother Xian Sheng. If it was in the past, Xiao Feng would definitely return the greeting and praise the other party for his noble character and unquestionable integrity. But now, when he thought about how he was the big brother who had caused the destruction of his family, he could not bring himself to say the word respect. Feng you rest on the side. Watch how your father takes care of this big monk. Okay, Xiao Feng and Xiao Yuanshan had fought before. He knew the other party's martial arts attainments. Although Xian Cheng's martial arts were high, his father was not below him. However, with the Xian Cheng Buddhist staff in hand, the power of the demon subduing technique was much greater. The places that were swept by the Buddhist staff would shatter rocks and break trees. From this, it could be seen what would happen if the Buddhist staff hit a body of flesh and blood. Xiao Yuanshan took a few blows with his bare hands. He suddenly could not hold on any longer. He hurriedly pulled out a long whip from his waist and swept it toward the top of Xian Cheng's head. Xian Cheng was shocked. The top of the head was a person's most vital point. Even if he had the diamond body protecting body, he did not dare to test it. He hurriedly dodged to the side. Xiao Yuanshan took advantage of this time to instantly increase the distance between them. The long whip was like a black dragon coming out of the sea. It filled the sky and struck towards Xian Cheng's vital points. Xian Cheng waved the Buddhist staff in his hand and protected his entire body. However, he quickly felt that every whip seemed to have the power of 1,000 caddies. It shook his arm until it was numb. He could not help but be shocked. How can this thief's martial arts be so powerful? Zhao Min, who was on the tree, was beaming with joy. She almost clapped her hands. Whip this stinky monk to death. Whether it was the Meng Liao alliance or the dispute between her and Xian Cheng, she naturally stood on Xiao Yuanshan's side. Song Qing-shu could see that the two's martial arts were about the same. In terms of internal energy, Xian Cheng was slightly stronger. However, Xiao Yuanshan's weapon was a long whip. As the saying goes, an inch longer is an inch stronger. It has to be known that even if a normal person suddenly stopped the handle of the whip, the various parts of the whip would stop one after another. The kinetic energy would then be transferred to the next part, which would increase the speed of the next part. In the end, all the kinetic energy of the whip would be concentrated at the tip. The tip of the whip could instantly reach twice the speed of sound. Normal people were already like this, let alone this world's top experts. After Xiao Yuanshan's internal energy passed through the whip, it was unknown how many times stronger it would be on Xian Cheng's body. Xian Cheng blocked for a while and realized that he could not passively take a beating. He felt that the surrounding air seemed to have become solid. If he continued to whip, he might not even be able to hold the Buddhist staff steadily. He waved the demon vanquishing staff technique in an attempt to wrap around the whip. However, since Xiao Yuanshan used a whip as a weapon, he had long since reached the point of perfection. How could he let him wrap around the whip so easily? After Xiancheng tried a few times to no avail, he decided to give up on his defense and directly used the diamond invincible divine technique to close in on Xiao Yuanshan. Other than when the whip swept towards the top of his head, eyes, and dantian, he only used the Buddha staff to block. An inch longer is an inch stronger. The best way to deal with a long weapon was to get within an inch of it and fight it in close combat. However, just as he took a few steps, his body was whipped a few times. His diamond, invincible divine technique felt like it was about to break. Xiancheng gritted his teeth and continued to charge forward like a bull. Xiao Yuanshan's expression also changed. If he met any other opponent and got whipped like this, even if they didn't die, they would be heavily injured. However, the person in front of him was like a turtle. He was simply too tanky. Seeing the opponent getting closer and closer, he could only retreat. The two of them advanced and retreated. In the end, the distance between them was balanced. Xiancheng couldn't close in, and Xiao Yuanshan couldn't get rid of him. However, although the diamond invincible divine technique could protect Xiancheng's body, it couldn't protect his clothes. The kasaya on his body was in tatters, and many parts of his body were exposed. Zhao Min, who was on the tree, spat and said, "This monk's body is so ugly. He really doesn't know shame. He still doesn't admit defeat." Song Qingshu laughed and said, "Although Xiancheng looks miserable on the surface, Xiao Yuanshan can't do anything to him. How can he admit defeat?" The Shaolin monks weren't as optimistic as him. They all had serious expressions. They knew that Xiancheng's martial arts weren't inferior to any of the top martial artists in the world, but this time, he had encountered someone whose martial arts countered his. If this continued, Xiancheng would probably be at a disadvantage. However, the people present were all famous people, so they couldn't bring themselves to help. Shuju suddenly said, "Martial granduncles, today is not a martial arts competition in Jianghu. We are avenging martial grand uncle master Xianku and killing the innocent people in Jianghu. How can we care about our reputation and let the thief escape?" This, Xianci, Fang Zheng, and Kong Wen all looked hesitant. Shuju continued, "Especially since this thief has learned so many unique skills of Shaolin. Just now, he showed us the Prajna Palm, the formless finger of disaster, the exorcism staff, and the Skanda staff. Now, he seems to be using our temple's diamond exorcism ring. If we let the 72 ultimate skills leak out, we will become sinners." Yes, what Shuju said makes sense. Xianci and the others nodded. Shuju knew that they still couldn't let it go, so he bowed and said, "Let me help martial grand uncle master Xiancheng." As soon as he finished speaking, he used the true chi of the North Profound Divine, Kung Fu, and used the wood-burning saber skill to cut Xiao Yuanshan's whip. It was supposed to be an invisible saber, but the friction between the internal force and the air formed a saber of fire. If it hit, Xiao Yuanshan's whip would be cut in half, even if it was made of cowhide. Xiao Yuanshan's eyes swept over the blade, chi, and his face couldn't help but change. He hastily wanted to retract his whip, but how could Xiancheng give him the chance? While he was distracted, he used his staff to delay his whip. Although he couldn't stop it, it was enough for the blade chi to come down. Chapter 1476. Seeing that the flame-like saber chi was about to slash the long whip, everyone suddenly heard a sharp sound of breaking through the air. Then, the saber chi seemed to have been hit by something and scattered in all directions. There were many masters in the field, and some sharp-eyed people had already seen that it was a leaf that had hit the broadsword chi. Although the leaf was quickly burned by the flames of the wood-burning broadsword method, many people still saw it clearly. He actually destroyed Shuju's broadsword chi with just a leaf. Is it really the legendary saying that flying flowers and leaves can hurt people? No, many people in the field can hurt people with flying flowers and leaves, but it is extremely difficult to reach this level. This was the thought of almost everyone in the field. Sword chi. Just now, the leaf was attached to the sword Qi, so it could disperse Shuju's broadsword Qi. Xiansheng and the other top masters in the field all understood and involuntarily looked in the direction where the sword Qi came from. Song Qingshu had already come down from the tree and slowly walked to the field. Everyone long time no see. He asked Zhao Min to stay in the tree so that she would not be hurt later. After all, there were many people in the Shaolin Temple. If there was a fight later, they might not be able to take care of her. Song Qingshu. When the monks of the Shaolin Temple saw him, they could not help but change their expressions. After all, the relationship between the two sides was not friendly. In the past 2 years, the two sides had clashed many times. Although each time it was not to the extent of fighting to the death, it was not much different. Greetings, masters. Song Qingshu smiled at the monks. Both sides had different identities. One was a dominator, and the other was the leader of the martial arts world in the Central Plains. The necessary politeness was necessary. However, after the politeness, Song Qingshu ignored them and turned to Xiao Feng. Brother Xiao. Xiao Feng also showed a trace of surprise. Brother Song. Song Qingshu smiled and said, last time the Manchurian army went south, fortunately, Brother Xiao helped me. I didn't expect to meet you again after so long. Xiao Feng looked at the bloodstains on his chest, and he couldn't help but laugh bitterly. The next time we meet, things have remained the same, but the people have changed. When the Shaolin monks heard the conversation between the two, their expressions changed. It should be known that they did not have a good relationship with Song Qingshu to begin with. Now that Song Qingshu and Xiao Feng had such a relationship, it would be difficult for the matter to be resolved peacefully. However, Song Qingshu did not care about their feelings at all. He continued to say to Azu, who was beside Xiao Feng, Miss Azu, speaking of which, you and I have been apart for the longest time. Zhao Min, who was on a tree not far away, couldn't help but curl her lips. This bastard will flirt with pretty girls no matter where he goes. Azu pursed her lips and smiled. Yes, the last time I saw you at Swallow Dock, you were still a little down and out. I didn't expect you to be so famous now. Song Qingshu smiled and said, a lot of this is thanks to you. Mississippi. Azu was startled. She didn't understand what he meant. Song Qingshu naturally couldn't tell her about the art of disguise, so he said instead, looking at how intimate you and Brother Xiao are, you must already be in love with each other. Young master, Azu was greatly embarrassed. She blushed and said angrily. Xiao Feng, who was on the side, also chuckled. During this period of time, Azu has helped me a lot. I have long regarded her as the most important person in my life. When Azu heard his affectionate and direct confession, her face became even redder. On the tree, Zhao Min's eyes lit up as she listened. She thought that the men of the prairie were indeed direct and forthright. They weren't like the people of the Song dynasty who had so many red tape. However, when she remembered that Song Qingshu was also from the Song dynasty, she couldn't help but feel a little conflicted. That bastard was also from the Song dynasty, but he was also very direct. Seeing Xiao Feng and Azu's lovey-dovey appearance, Xiao Yuanshan naturally felt very gratified. However, Azi, who was on the side, pouted her small mouth. However, she had something she was even more afraid of, so she subconsciously moved back and hid. Song Qingshu said with a smile that wasn't a smile, Azi, why are you hiding? Azi's body trembled. The shrewish temper that she had developed over the past 10 years instantly came back. Meeting you, this pervert. She was just about to scold him when she suddenly realized that the people on her side were currently in danger. Xiao Feng, who had always been mighty, was currently heavily injured, and it would be very difficult for him to protect himself, especially since this group of people most likely had to rely on Song Qingshu to escape from danger. If she were to have a conflict with him, these people would most likely side with the other party. She grew up in a place like the Xingqiu sect. She was used to scheming and deceiving each other. Since she was young, she had cultivated an exquisite heart. Thus, she was very good at observing people's words and body language. What, do you know each other? Azu looked at the two of them in confusion. She then smiled and said, Prince Song, Z is my little sister. She has always been naughty and mischievous. If she has offended you in any way, I hope that young master will forgive her." Z secretly snorted. She thought to herself, "Big sister is such a soft-hearted person." She apologized without asking anything. Obviously, he was the one who bullied me. How would I dare to offend him? Fortunately, she grew up in the Xingqiu sect. She was even more used to the law of the jungle. Everything was based on benefits. Thus, she didn't take losing her virginity so seriously. Otherwise, if it were a young lady in a boudoir, she would have already exploded upon seeing Song Qing-shu. How could that be? Z is clever and obedient. I can't wait to like her. Song Qing-shu didn't expose the relationship between him and Z. After all, if the fact that he had treated her as a slave was exposed, as her elder sister, Azu, and as her brother-in-law, Xiaofeng, couldn't just sit back and do nothing. When that time came, it would be very difficult to clean up the mess. Looking at Z's clever and cunning eyes, Song Qing-shu thought to himself, "It seems that she has completely woken up. The soul transfer art's hypnosis can only last for a short period of time." At this moment, Xian Cheng, who was not far away, finally became impatient. He heavily hit the ground with his staff and snorted. "Are you guys done catching up? Today I shall have fallen into a tight encirclement. I know that it is difficult for me to escape. Brother Song, don't worry about me. Take Azu and Z away. Take good care of me, and I will be able to rest in peace." He didn't suggest helping Xiao Yuanshan escape. After all, he was clear about the great enmity between his father and Shaolin. Shaolin would definitely not allow his father to leave. He didn't want to drag Song Qing-shu down with him. Hearing his words, Azu instantly became anxious. "I'm not leaving. I want to live and die with you." Z rolled her eyes. Although she had a good impression of Xiaofeng during this period of time, with her personality, she naturally didn't want to stay here and die with them. However, she had always been smart and cunning. She quickly realized that with Song Qing-shu around, he definitely wouldn't let them die. Therefore, she righteously said, "I'm not leaving either. I want to live and die with my sister and brother-in-law." Song Qing-shu looked at Z in surprise. He thought to himself that this little girl was somewhat normal. Could it be that she had fallen in love with Xiaofeng, like in the original work? However, he didn't have time to think about this. He turned around and bowed to the Shaolin monks. "Masters, Xiaofeng and Song Mao are bosom friends. Can you give me some face and let them live? Is your face very valuable?" Xian Cheng snorted angrily. Song Qing-shu faintly smiled. "At least it's more valuable than yours." "You!" Xian Cheng suddenly became angry. Xian Xi hurriedly reached out to stop him and said, "Ba, very good. Prince Song's territory covers a radius of thousands of miles, and he has 100,000 elite soldiers. Now he has been conferred the title of King of Qi. His face is naturally valuable." After flattering Song Qing-shu, he suddenly changed the topic. "If it was any other matter, since King of Qi has spoken, we naturally have to give him face. But this matter, Xiaofeng and his son have killed so many people in the martial arts world, including our senior brother Xianku. If we let them go, how can we face those innocent people who died in vain?" He called Song Qing-shu King of Qi, which clearly represented Shaolin's attitude. Although they were now under the rule of the Jin Kingdom, they still recognized the orthodox position of the Song dynasty. After all, for the Han people in the world, the Song dynasty was the orthodox dynasty in their hearts. As for the other Han dynasty, the Ming Kingdom, after all, had been destroyed, and it was not as lenient to the scholars and common people as the Song dynasty. Hearing Xian Xi's words, Zhao Min, who was not far away, said with some schadenfreude, "This bastard deserves it. You are usually so proud, but now you know that your face is useless." Song Qing-shu was not angry at all. The root cause of all this is because Master led the experts of the Central Plains to kill Xiao Feng's parents 30 years ago. Kong, one could not help but snort. According to King of Qi, in the end, all this is still our temple's fault? Song Qing-shu shook his head. "I did not say that. What I mean is that everything has to be traced back to the source. Back then, the reason why Abbot Xianxi led the experts of the Central Plains to kill Xiao Feng's parents was largely because he was misled by a scoundrel. I believe Master also knows this. Who is that person? Xiao Feng and Xiao Yuanshan stepped forward, their voices somewhat trembling. Ba, Xianxi put his palms together. That person is also a person with a great background in the martial arts world. He must have been deceived by a scoundrel and felt extremely guilty after the incident. Very soon, he died of depression. I will not implicate his reputation. But what if that person faked his death to get away from his crime? Song Qingshu said. What? The people of Shaolin were all shocked. Song Qingshu continued. Great Master Xianbei died in Dali's body discipline temple. He was killed by the Skunda staff, an expert in the martial arts world. Rumor has it that he died in the hands of Morong Fu. However, Morong Fu is still young. Does he have the skills to kill Great Master Xianbei, who has been famous for decades? I believe everyone already has their own guesses. That person really didn't die? Xianxi muttered to himself. An incomparably complicated expression appeared in his eyes. Song Qingshu replied, Shaolin Temple is the Mount Tai and the Big Dipper of the martial arts world. I don't believe that you all did not receive any information. The monks whispered to each other. Clearly, they were verifying some of the information they had obtained earlier. Brother Song, who exactly is that scoundrel? Xiao Feng could not bear it any longer. He grabbed Song Qingshu's arm and asked, to be able to use Great Master Xianbei's Skunda staff to kill him, other than the Big Dipper of shifting stars, who else could it be? Song Qingshu replied. A Zhu cried out in alarm. But Morong Gongzi is not the murderer. Xiao Dage even tried to clarify for Gongzi at that time. She was, after all, a maid of Swallow Dock, remembering her former master, so she couldn't help but defend herself. Chapter 1477. Song Qingshu shook his head and said, Didn't I just say that Morong Fu couldn't kill Master Xianbei? Although Xianbei was just a cameo in the original novel, his martial arts had always been underestimated. All kinds of signs showed that he was the third master under Xianxi, the sweeping monk of Shaolin Temple. After all, Morong Bo had launched a sneak attack first, but he was still at a disadvantage. In the end, Morong Bo had to use his unique skill to kill Xianbei. Morong Bo's purpose was to provoke disputes between countries. He wanted to kill Xianbei with the solar finger technique, but Xianbei's martial arts were too high, and he had not practiced the solar finger technique well enough. In the end, he had to use his unique skill. Not only did he fail to frame Morong Bo, but he also harmed his own son. But didn't you say that Xianbei was killed by the solar finger technique? Xiao Feng was confused, but he suddenly realized, was it Morong Bo? That's right. Song Qingshu nodded his head and roughly explained about Morong Bo faking his death. That bastard. Xiao Feng clenched his fists, and his eyes were full of anger. It's him. Xiao Yuanshan almost fainted. He knew that it was his enemy who had fought with him in Shaolin Temple for decades. When he saw Morong Bo stealing scriptures in Shaolin Temple, he thought that Morong Bo was an enemy of Shaolin Temple. As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, so he secretly taught him martial arts. In the first fight, Morong Bo couldn't hold on for more than 100 moves. In the third fight, they were still tied after 300 moves. Thinking that his enemy's martial arts had improved by leaps and bounds because of his guidance, Xiao Yuanshan was so angry that he almost vomited blood. At this time, Shuzhu suddenly said, We will find out the truth about Master Morong. Although there may be a conspiracy, it is also true that Xiao Yuanshan and his son killed people. Moreover, Xiao Yuanshan secretly learned the 72 unique skills of our temple. If we let them go, they will leak their martial arts to the alien tribes. In the future, people in the Central Plains will be harmed. In any case, we can't let them be sinners. Yes, we can't let them go. When the Shaolin Temple monks heard Song Qingshu's words, they were hesitant. But after listening to Su Zhu's words, they instantly firmed their minds. Song Qingshu frowned. Shuju was not like the honest little monk in the original novel. Was he also possessed by an old monster like Zhang Wuji? On the tree, Xiaomin secretly curled her lips. If the father and son of the Xiao family had only killed Master Tan, Granny Tan, Zhao Qian's son, and some other small fries in Jianghu, Shaolin would probably just pretend and not kill them. Even if they had killed Master Xian Ku, Shaolin might have tolerated it temporarily for the sake of Song Qingshu. However, Xiao Yuanshan had secretly learned the 72 ultimate skills, which was the lifeblood of Shaolin and the foundation of their survival in Jianghu. Now, even Zhang Sanfeng and Wang Chongyang would not be able to help. You are afraid that Xiao Yuanshan will impart his martial arts to the Khitan soldiers and harm the Han people in the future, right? Song Qingshu retorted. Of course. Shuju had a compassionate look on his face. Now that the divine land has fallen, Shaolin has been the leader of the martial arts world since ancient times. Naturally, we should do our part for the people in the world and take precautions. What a good do our part. What a good afraid that Xiao Yuanshan would teach the Khitan soldiers. Song Qingshu's tone suddenly had an additional hint of ridicule. The people of the different tribes you speak of still know how to teach the secret manuals they obtain to the ordinary soldiers, enrich the country and strengthen the army, and contribute to the interests of the country. However, you people have the authentic 72 ultimate skills in your hands. Have you ever taught these martial arts to us, the Han people's soldiers, so that when they face the cavalry of the different tribes, they would not be unable to protect themselves? The Shaolin monks were speechless for a moment. It should be known that the martial arts of each sect had always been strictly guarded. Only the inner core disciples were allowed to impart them, for fear that the martial arts would be leaked. For thousands of years, all sects and schools have been like this. No one would care about it. Who would have thought that Song Qingshu would put such a big hat on them? And they did not know how to refute. If it was an ordinary sect, they would have just said that he was crazy. Which sect in Jianghu would impart their martial arts to outsiders? But they were Shaolin, a sect that prided itself on being the leading mountain in the martial arts world. If they admitted that they did not impart their martial arts because of sectarian bias, which led to the Han people being bullied by the cavalry of the aliens, they would not be able to bear the blame. Master Fangzheng shouted the name of Buddha and continued, Prince Qi may not know this, but practicing Shaolin martial arts requires a very good foundation. Moreover, progress is slow in the early stage. Later on, each martial art needs a corresponding Buddhist method to resolve it. Otherwise, it is easy to hurt oneself. Not only is it not beneficial, but it is also harmful. And the army needs simple, direct, and quick training methods. So the martial arts of our temple is not suitable for them. Hearing this, all the monks nodded their heads. Fangzheng's Buddhist method was profound, and he had a kind and benevolent countenance. Within the temple, he had always been loved and respected. His words were reasonable and cleverly answered the other side's question. Although he did not have a good impression of other people, Song Qingshu had some respect for this kind and benevolent old monk. However, today's matter concerned the lives of Xiao Feng and his son, so he could only offend him. Since according to Master's words, the martial arts of your temple are not suitable for the army to spread, why do you keep saying that you are afraid that Xiao Yuanshan will return and pass it on to the Khitan soldiers? Fangzheng had never been an eloquent person and was momentarily at a loss for words. Suju hurriedly said, although our temple's martial arts are not suitable for the army to spread, the martial arts of the Khitan people are different from those of the Central Plains. If by any chance the Khitan people have a way to improve our martial arts and make them suitable for the soldiers to practice, then it will be too late for regrets. On the tree, Xiaomin secretly nodded her head. Although this little monk was a little annoying, he was quite eloquent. Xianqing finally could not hold back anymore and said loudly, Song, you have a glib tongue. You just want to help Xiao Yuanshan and his son get off the hook. Even if I tell you, there is no way we will let you succeed with so many masters in our temple today. Speaking of which, we still haven't settled the score with you for destroying the original Sanskrit copy of the muscle bone strengthening scripture. Hearing the mention of the muscle bone strengthening scripture, Z opened her mouth and tried to say that the original Sanskrit copy was with Song Qing Shu, so that the people of the Shaolin Temple would inevitably fight with Song Qing Shu, and they could take the opportunity to escape. However, after hesitating for a while, she did not say it out of some unknown concerns. She just snorted secretly. "If you don't care about us, I will drag you down with me." She was from the Xingqiu sect, so she did not feel guilty at all for planning this kind of thing. Of course, Song Qing Shu did not know that he was almost sold by Z. He sneered at Xian Cheng and said, "In the end, you still have to rely on your strength to speak. Alas, why did you fight with words for so long?" "Humph." Xian Cheng waved his monk's robe. It was obvious that he had experienced the power of his mouth and was not willing to argue with him anymore. However, the clothes on his body had just been ruthlessly whipped by Xiao Yuanshan's leather whip, and right now they were torn and tattered, looking exceptionally comical. "Xiao Feng is my friend after all. I can't just sit back and do nothing. How about this?" Song Qing Shu suggested. "If we get into a scuffle, it will hurt the innocent. Why don't we each choose one person to fight? If we win, you let them go. If you win, the Xiao father and son will be punished by your temple. What do you think?" The Shaolin monks looked at each other and saw the fear in each other's eyes. Song Qing Shu's kung fu was very high. They had already seen it at the Golden Snake meeting. After that, they had fought with him several times. It could be said that he was unfathomable. Although there were many masters present, no one was sure that they could defeat Song Qing Shu. Even someone as arrogant as Xian Cheng was a little hesitant. Although he was very confident, this battle was related to Shaolin's unique skills and reputation. He did not dare to be rash. Amit Ba Kongwen said, "Almsgiver's kung fu has long been famous in Jianghu. There is no need to use our temple to show off." Song Qing Shu shrugged. "Right now, I really have no intention of showing off. I just want to help my friend. How about this? If you all feel that one battle to decide the winner is unacceptable, then how about changing it to 3 battles? You and I will each send out 3 people. The one who wins more times will be the winner. What do you think?" Hearing this proposal, the Shaolin monks could not help but be a little moved. They all used secret voice sending to communicate. In their view, Xiao Feng was seriously injured. Although he could still hold on, any master on their side should be able to win. As for the others, Azu and Zi's kung fu were low and not worth mentioning at all. In this way, they had already won one battle before the battle. The possibility of winning this bet was very high. However, Xian Ci raised an objection. Although they could win one battle, the other side had sent out Song Qing Shu, so they most likely could also win one battle. The key to victory would be the battle with Xiao Yuanshan. After watching the battle between Xiao Yuanshan and Xian Cheng, do any of you have the confidence to win? The other monks were silent. Although they boasted that they would not lose to Xiao Yuanshan, they did not have full confidence to win. This battle was very important, so no one dared to take the risk. In the end, Su Zhu suggested that since they had the advantage, why did they not use it? Why did they have to fight them one-on-one? Xian Cheng immediately agreed, and Xian Ci and the others also nodded. Finally, after the discussion was settled, Xian Ci said, "The Xiao father and son have too much blood on their hands. They have also secretly learned our sect's kung fu. We cannot let them leave. If King Qi can stand by and do nothing, our previous grievances will be written off, and you can even win the friendship of our Shaolin Temple." Song Qing Shu had to admit that his proposal was somewhat attractive. The 1,000-year-old Shaolin Temple had a great influence in the martial arts world. If they could get their help, it would be like adding wings to a tiger. However, he was not a 3-year-old child. What was the use of an illusory promise of friendship? He was very clear that the fundamental conflict between the two sides could not be resolved. The Shaolin Temple needed to find a strong person who could unite the world. By then, they could also become the national religion, and their benefits would be greatly expanded. Now, their power was still very weak compared to the whole world, so naturally, it was not in their plans. Now, all the signs showed that the Shaolin Temple was most likely to unite the world with the Mongols. In fact, this was understandable. In history, whether it was the Zen sect, the Chuanjian sect, or the various sects in the West, they all tried their best to preach to the Mongol Khan. This was because once the Mongol Khan believed in a certain sect, the status of that sect would become very high. Temples could be opened everywhere in the world, and all kinds of rewards, land, and offerings from believers were endless. However, after a long battle between the Zen sect and the Chuanjian sect, in the end, the Tantric sect was favored by the Mongol Khan. Chapter 1478. Xianxi indifferently replied, "Whatever the Prince of Qi says, compared to preventing the Khitans from tormenting our Han people and giving justice to our fellow Wulin practitioners who have previously been harmed, what does a little criticism of our temple count for? The Khitans can't even protect themselves now. How can they still have the ability to torment our Han people?" Song Qingshu rolled his eyes. He couldn't help but admire the ability of these monks to talk. No matter what they did, they would always be able to stand on the moral high ground. In this aspect, he was far from being able to do so. He had to learn more from them. "Shut up. Are you going to move aside or not?" Xian Cheng impatiently stepped forward. Song Qingshu's smile gradually disappeared, and his voice became somewhat cold. "What if I don't move aside?" "Oomph." Xian Cheng heavily struck his staff on the ground. The other monks in the temple all took 2 steps forward, vaguely surrounding Song Qingshu. Seeing that a battle was about to break out, Xiao Feng couldn't help but step forward and say, "Brother Song, I appreciate your good intentions, but there is no need for you to risk your life for me. I'm already extremely grateful that you rescued Azu and Z from this place." He had seen Song Qingshu fight before, so he knew that even if Song Qingshu's martial arts were higher than his, there was still a limit. Now, there were so many martial arts masters present, and they were obviously going to attack him together. No matter how high a person's martial arts was, how could he deal with so many people? Song Qingshu couldn't help but laugh. Brother Xiao is indeed an indomitable hero. If it was someone else, they would be afraid that I would leave them, but Brother Xiao is still thinking for me. Just based on this friendship, Song Mao definitely won't leave you behind today. Good. Xiao Yuanshan laughed. Feng, you have made a good friend. Although there are many friends in this world, there are very few that can be considered as life and death friends. Even if I die today, I will die without regrets. Greetings, Senior Xiao. Even though Song Qingshu cursed Xiao Yuanshan's mental state, he was still Xiao Feng's father, and he was of the same generation as Xiao Feng, so it was only right for him to address him respectfully. Xiao Yuanshan suddenly lowered his voice and said, "Little brother, in a moment, I will do my best to stop these bald donkeys. At that time, you could take Feng, and leave." "Father." Xiao Feng panicked. Xiao Yuanshan interrupted him. "Feng, I have lived for so many years. I've already lived enough. You are still young. Your future is brighter than mine. Live well from now on." Xiao Feng still wanted to say something, but Xiao Yuanshan glared at him fiercely. "Don't tell me you want us to stay here and die together. It's fine if it's you and I, but little brother Song is so loyal. How can we let him fall into danger? Besides, you still have to stay alive so that old dog Morong can avenge your mother. How can you die?" "Yes." Xiao Feng couldn't help but tear up. Song Qingshu could not help but cough when he saw how the father and son looked like they were going to die. Actually, none of you need to die. Xiao Feng and his son looked at him with puzzled expressions. After all, the two of them were top-notch experts. They were very clear about the difference in strength between the two sides. They had no chance against so many monks of the Shaolin sect. Song Qingshu did not explain much and directly took a step forward. Although he was only one person, it was like a magnificent army blocking in front of the Shaolin sect monks. Xiancheng's expression changed slightly, but he quickly snorted. "Surnamed Song, you don't need a bluff. Compared to the Golden Snake meeting, there are so many Jianghu people who can provide their hands with sharp swords. None of us here use swords. Let's see how you can use the 10,000 returning swords." When they witnessed the battle between him and Ah Ching during the Golden Snake meeting, the scene of sword chi that covered the sky had left an indelible impression on everyone present, and even with Xiancheng's conceit, he couldn't help but feel fearful. Song Qing-shu smiled faintly. Who said that the 10,000 returning swords must need a sword? As soon as these words came out, the Shaolin sect monks were startled, their hearts filled with fear. At this moment, Song Qing-shu moved. His figure flashed and appeared in front of Kong Wen. Among the monks present, Xian Cheng, Fang Zheng, Su Zhu, Xian Ci, as well as Kong Wen and Kong Ji had the highest level of martial arts. Kong Ji had just been injured by Xiao Yuanshan's formless finger tribulation, and now he no longer had the strength to fight. Among the others, Xian Cheng, Fang Zheng, Su Zhu, and Xian Ci were all superclass masters in Jianghu. Song Qing-shu was not sure that he could kill them instantly. Although Kong Wen was ranked second among the 4 great divine monks of Shaolin, among the 4 great divine monks, except for Kong Jian, who was unfathomable, the other 3 were weaker, so Song Qing-shu made them his first targets. Kong Wen's vision blurred, and he found that Song Qing-shu had already attacked with his palm. Instead of being surprised, he was happy. It should be known that among the 4 great divine monks, Kong Jian's Vajra Indestructible Divine Skill ranked first, Kong Xing's Vajra Force ranked first, Kong Ji's Vajra Force ranked first, and Kong Wen's Inner Force ranked first. He had heard that Song Qing-shu's movements were treacherous and his swordsmanship was divine. He was worried that he would suffer a loss in terms of moves. Now that he had given up on fancy skills and wanted to fight with palm strength, which happened to be a strong point, how could he not be happy? Kong Wen thought that even if his inner force could not beat him, he could at least hold him for a moment. As long as he held him for a moment, his companions would immediately arrive. In the face of all kinds of attacks, no matter how high Song Qing-shu's kung fu was, he could only die on the spot. These thoughts flashed through his mind in a flash. He had already instinctively raised his hand and used all the inner force in his body to meet the attack. When the 2 palms met, he felt as if he had hit nothing but air. He could not feel the opponent's inner force at all. Not good. Kong Wen was, after all, a famous expert in Jianghu. He instantly realized that he had fallen into a trap. Unfortunately, it was too late. Just when he had used up all his strength and had yet to generate a new one, the opponent's palm force had already surged toward him like an avalanche. In just a moment, Kong Wen spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. Song Qing-shu did not follow up with another attack. Instead, he instantly disappeared from his original spot. As soon as his figure disappeared, a turbulent and vigorous palm force bombarded him, creating a large pit in the place where he had been standing. It turned out that when Xian Cheng saw Song Qing-shu attack Kong Wen, he immediately used the Prajna palm to save him. Unfortunately, he was still a step too late. After avoiding Xian Cheng's attack, Song Qing-shu did not look relaxed at all. He felt a sharp saber chi appear beside him. The timing and angle of this saber chi were perfect, blocking all his escape routes. It seemed easy to seriously injure Kong Wen with one move. But after all, Kong Wen's inner force could compete for the top 3 in Shaolin Temple. Song Qing-shu had only used the characteristics of the 18 dragon-subduing palms to seriously injure Kong Wen with one move. However, he had changed his inner force in a flash. Even with his cultivation, his chi and blood were a little turbulent. Therefore, he did not dare to take the enemy's attack head-on. Seeing that he could not avoid it, Song Qing-shu gritted his teeth and used the so close, yet worlds apart kung fu. In an instant, he appeared 10 feet away. A nearby tree was cut in half by the sharp saber chi. The cut was extremely black, and the air was filled with a burning smell. The wood-burning saber technique. It turns out to be Shuju. Song Qing-shu snorted secretly. Just as he was about to counterattack, the sky full of palm shadows blocked his way forward. It turned out to be Master Fangjing's Thousand Hands Buddha Palm. One must know that his Thousand Hands Buddha Palm was an existence that could suppress Ruanwuxing. Song Qing-shu did not dare to be careless, and hurriedly focused his mind to deal with it. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged several moves. The sky full of palm shadows dazzled his eyes. Song Qing-shu could not help but admire Zhang Sanfeng. Previously, when facing Master Fangjing's Thousand Hands Buddha Palm, He even waited for it to be used to the extreme before attacking. However, as soon as he attacked, he locked the opponent's palms and turned the sky full of palm shadows into nothingness. Song Qingshu knew that he could not do it. Although his cultivation was high, he could not compare to Zhang Sanfeng's 100 years of experience. However, he also had his own way. He used the advantage of his lightness skill to instantly avoid the Thousand Hands Buddha Palm's frontal attack, and circled around to attack his opponent's back. He respected Master Fangzheng's character, so he did not use too much force and only planned to seal his opponent's acupoints. The solitary Yang Finger's acupoint sealing technique was unparalleled in the world. Unless it was an expert from the Duan family, it would be difficult to unseal it in a short period of time. However, Fangzheng was obviously on guard against his lightness skill. When he felt a strong wind coming from his back, his whole body flipped forward. It was unknown what kind of Shaolin lightness skill he used, but he instantly turned around. Song Qingshu was secretly shocked, but thinking that if he suddenly turned around, it would be too late for him to use the Thousand Hands Buddha Palm. Just as he was about to point his finger at Fangzheng, he suddenly felt alarmed and hurriedly withdrew his strength to defend himself. Roar! A roar that sounded like a great bell rang out. Waves of sound waves that were visible to the naked eye hit Song Qingshu's body, causing the blood in Song Qingshu's heart to churn. Vajra Zen Lion's Roar. Song Qingshu recalled that in the original work, Master Fangzheng roared at the 6 immortals of the Peach Valley and stunned all 6 of them at the same time. Even Taoist Chong Su felt dizzy and almost fell down, which showed how powerful it was. In that split second, Xian Ci had already struck out with a Vajra palm from afar. Song Qingshu knew how powerful the Vajra palm was. Back then, Zhao Min had been struck by the aftershock of this palm and had almost died. He suppressed the annoyance in his heart after being hit by the lion's roar of the Vajradhyana and moved away by 1 foot. At this time, both Xian Sheng and Xu Zhu had arrived, and Fangzheng had also recovered and joined the battle. Being besieged by 4 masters, Song Qingshu suddenly felt the pressure doubled. He could not help but feel a little regretful. Just now, he had been too soft-hearted and hesitated to attack Master Fangzheng. He had forgotten that Master Fangzheng was also a top master. Even if he attacked with all his strength, Master Fangzheng must have a way to protect himself. If he had subdued Fangzheng just now, the current situation would be many times better. However, it was useless to regret at this time. He hurriedly braced himself to deal with everyone's joint attack. The wind of palms swept across the field and yellow sand filled the sky. Those with lower martial arts could not see the situation clearly at all. They could only faintly hear the sounds of fists and palms colliding, as well as shouts from time to time. This battle was different from Zhang Sanfeng's 1 against 3 in the woods. At that time, it was nominally Zhang Sanfeng against Xian Cheng, Xu Zhu, and Fangzheng. However, the 3 of them wanted to save face, so they only took turns to fight. They did not have the nerve to attack all at once. Moreover, the 2 sides only exchanged superficial moves. After each move, they would not attack again, and then let their companions attack. At that time, neither Zhang Sanfeng nor the 3 Shaolin monks had used their full strength. Now, the monks of a Shaolin temple were afraid of Song Qingshu's reputation, so they had used their full strength from the start. In addition, they were besieged by 4 top masters at the same time. This caused Song Qingshu to be able to attack someone's weakness and seriously injure his opponent. However, he was forced to defend himself by the attacks of the others. Moreover, they were all from the same Shaolin temple, so they knew each other's martial arts very well. They could completely attack without restraint, and the flaws in their bodies could be made up for by their companions at any time. Now, the pressure that Song Qingshu was facing was many times greater than what Zhang Sanfeng had faced in the past. Naturally, he could not resolve the crisis with ease like Zhang Sanfeng. The other senior monks of the Xian generation and Kong generation of the Shaolin Temple looked at each other. Several of them could not help but try to help Song Qingshu, taking advantage of the situation to completely subdue him. Who would have thought that as soon as they approached, they would scream and vomit blood? It turned out that the area around the battle formed by the 5 people in the field was filled with fierce sword chi, blade intent, palm wind, and fist aura. The people outside were not strong enough, so the moment they touched it, they would suffer a backlash. Chapter 1479. Zhao Min, who was on a tree not far away, exclaimed. She had been taking pleasure in Xianxi's misfortune as a spectator, but now she could not help but worry. After all, she had seen the martial arts of these monks before, and the experts under the Ryong mansion had fought with them many times. Will it be dangerous for him to fight so many experts alone? Zhao Min's heart leaped to her throat, but she quickly recalled that he had single-handedly killed more than a dozen top-notch experts of the Isle of Heroes in a near-miraculous manner back in the dilapidated temple. She somewhat calmed down. But these stinky monks are experts who have been in Jianghu for dozens of years. The fighting experience of the Island of Heroes top experts is on a completely different level. Zhao Min recalled Song Qingshu's evaluation of the Island of Heroes top experts, and for a moment, she felt conflicted. At this time, Xiao Yuanshan, who was on the other side, was also shocked. Feng, your friend's martial arts are so high. It's really shocking. He can actually fight against the attacks of 4 super experts alone. Xiao Feng smiled bitterly. Father, quickly go and help him. If something happens to him, how can we feel guilty? Don't worry. We Khitan people are indomitable. How can we let our friend take the risk alone? Xiao Yuanshan patted his shoulder and laughed loudly. Little brother, let me help you. After saying that, he waved his long whip and lashed at the battlefield. Compared to the other Shaolin disciples who were not strong enough, he naturally had the right to join the battle. However, it was a mess inside, and the power of the 5 top experts spread everywhere. He did not dare to rush over rashly, so he only used his long whip to wrap around Xianxi from afar, trying to bring him out of the battle. Old man Xianxi, your opponent is me. It's time to settle the old score from 30 years ago. Xiao Yuanshan's face was fierce, and he said angrily, I'm about very good indeed. Xianxi took the opportunity to jump out of the battle group. We have wronged you in the past, but Layman Xiao has been stirring up trouble in Jianghu these years, and he has harmed the innocent. Today, I will do justice on behalf of heaven. Xiao Yuanshan was so angry that he laughed. Such shameless boasting. You're just a defeated opponent. Where does your confidence come from? As the saying goes, the river flows east for 30 years, then west for 30 years. The battle that year made me feel guilty and compassionate, and I inadvertently conformed to the origin of our temple's martial arts. In the past 30 years, my martial arts have improved rapidly. Xianxi glanced at Xiao Yuanshan and couldn't help but sigh. On the contrary, after the battle that year, Master Zhao's eyes were blinded by hatred. His heart was filled with all kinds of evil and ruthlessness, causing his martial arts to not improve qualitatively in the past 30 years. Xiao Yuanshan was secretly shocked, but he didn't admit defeat. Even if my martial arts didn't improve, it's still more than enough to kill you. As soon as he finished speaking, he swung his long whip and attacked Xianxi with unparalleled power. Xianxi, Xian said lightly. Xian Master, Xian Fu's XSEI, and XT. And Xianxi did not dare to be careless. She activated the Cassock Demon subduing technique, and the cassock on her body swelled up. While defending against the whip, she counterattacked with a Great Guardian King Kong Palm. The Great Guardian King Kong Palm's greatest characteristic was that it could cut through space. Xianxi was able to fight back and forth with Xiao Yuanshan's whip and was not at a disadvantage. Although these people could not be considered top-notch experts, they were still first-rate experts in Jianghu. Although their numbers could not be compared to the experts of Virtuous Gathering Village, their quality was obviously higher. Even if Xiao Feng was in his normal state, it would be difficult for him to deal with them, not to mention now that he was heavily injured. Fortunately, there was Azu and Azi to help him. However, the 2 girls' martial arts were too low and could not even compare to a Shaolin expert. If Azi had not learned a vicious hidden weapon technique from Xingqiu's sect, she would have been captured long ago. Seeing that Xiao Feng was in danger from the corner of his eyes, Xiao Yuanshan roared angrily, and the whip in his hand immediately swept towards the few people who were surrounding him. Although those people's martial arts were not bad, how could they be Xiao Yuanshan's opponent? With just a touch, their skin and flesh were lacerated, and they screamed in pain. The pressure around Xiao Feng instantly disappeared. Seeing this, Xianxi's hair and beard stood on end. Roaring the name of Buddha, she rushed over. Xiao Yuanshan could not retract his whip and could only use one hand to engage in close combat. On one hand, Xiao Yuanshan had to use the whip to help Xiao Feng resolve the dangerous situation, and on the other hand, he had to face Xianxi's attacks. After all, Xianxi was one of Shaolin's top experts, causing Xiao Yuanshan to instantly be in an extremely difficult situation. If not for his extraordinary talent and decades of martial arts cultivation, he might have already been surrounded by danger. On the other hand, Zhao Min, who was watching from a distance, was extremely anxious. Xiao Feng and his son were like a small boat in a raging sea, and they could be drowned by the huge waves at any time. On the other hand, Song Qingshu and a few other experts were engaged in a life and death battle. Once the other Shaolin people subdued Xiao Feng and his son, and then went to help, wouldn't Song Qingshu be in danger? Zhao Min gritted her teeth, and in the end, with a delicate shout, she rushed over. She wanted to buy time for Song Qingshu. At least she could not let Xiao Feng and his son be captured before the outcome of the battle was decided. When the Shaolin monks saw that a person had suddenly appeared, they were shocked in their hearts. However, when they saw that it was only a delicate and beautiful young girl, they heaved a sigh of relief. At this moment, what they were most afraid of the most was the appearance of a few more top experts. Although Zhao Min could not be considered a grandmaster level expert, her martial arts was still much higher than Azu and Aziz. After knocking down a few of the monks beside them, she did not have time to care about them, and immediately ran to Xiao Feng's side to help him block the attacks of a few senior monks. Countess, Xiao Feng was both surprised and delighted. Why are you here? Zhao Min could not help but roll her eyes. She thought to herself, Xiao Feng is usually a smart lad, so why did he suddenly ask such a silly question? Recently, I've been asked about the unusual movements of the troops of the Song and Jin kingdoms, so I brought the experts of the Ryong Palace here to investigate. Zhao Min deliberately emphasized the words, the experts of the Ryong Palace. The experts of the Ryong Palace have also come? Xiao Feng was overjoyed. He had dealt with the people of the Ryong Palace before, so he knew that they were all first-class experts. When the Shaolin monks heard this, they were greatly shocked. Even Xian Cheng, Fang Zheng, and the others could not help but look over. It should be known that the Shaolin Temple had almost been wiped out by the Ryong Palace in one fell swoop, and even now, they still had some lingering fear. Song Qingshu could not help but laugh. Of course, he knew that there were no experts from the Ryong Palace. Zhao Min was indeed smart. She thought of this method in an instant to disturb the minds of the Shaolin monks. In fact, the main reason why he was able to fight 1 against 4, and now he was fighting 1 against 3 super experts, was because of his speed. There was nothing in the world that could not be overcome by speed. It should be known that in the Battle of the Smiling, Proud Wanderer at Blackwood Cliff, Dongfang Bubi had fought 1 against 5, including experts like Ren Wuxing, Ling Huchong, and Xiang Wentian, but he had still been able to deal with them with ease. This was all because of his speed. Now, with his extraordinary speed, he could also deal with the encirclement of several experts with ease. However, the quality of these experts' martial arts was much higher than that of Ling Huchong's team. Now, even the weakest of the 3, Xin Cheng, Su Zhu, and Fang Zheng, were slightly qualified to fight against Wuxing. In addition, their martial arts came from the same school, and their minds were connected. Their combined power was far greater than that of Ren Wuxing, Ling Huchong, and the others. But even so, Song Qingshu was still confident that he could seriously injure one of them. However, he had always been worried that even if he could seriously injure one of them, the other 2 would definitely take advantage of that moment, and cause him to be seriously injured. Now that Shaolin had the advantage of numbers, if he was injured, it would be very difficult for him to safely bring Zhao Min, Xiao Feng, and the others away. Therefore, the four of them had reached a delicate balance when they fought together. Song Qing-shu had been waiting for the perfect opportunity to seriously injure one of them without being seriously injured by the other two. Unfortunately, the three of them were cooperating very closely, so he had not found chance. Elder Xiao, I will help King Xiao here. Don't be distracted. Focus on dealing with Xian Ci, Zhao Min said quickly. At the same time, she added in her heart, it's best to quickly deal with Xian Ci and then come help us. Xiao Yuanshan originally had some doubts in his heart, but when he saw her exquisite swordsmanship, especially her magical footwork, he couldn't help but be excited. Okay. He immediately gave up on the long whip and directly used his palms to meet Xian Ci's, instantly turning the situation around. After all, Zhao Min's martial arts were the best of the 6 major sections. The biggest difference between her and a first-rate master was her lack of internal energy. If it was before, she would probably not be able to last more than a few moves against so many Shaolin monks. But coincidentally, she had just learned the leaving no trace on the sand from Song Qing-shu. This was one of the best lightness skills in the world. It just happened to make use of the advantages of her exquisite moves and avoided the weakness of her lack of internal energy, because she was fast enough to attack and dodge. Seeing Zhao Min's divine bravery, Xiao Feng couldn't help but feel heroic again. He thought in his heart, as a dignified and upright man, how could he be defeated by a woman? At this moment, it was as if he had activated a violent halo. His combat ability suddenly returned to the level before he was injured, and he beat the Shaolin monks until their faces were covered in dirt and they screamed in pain. Xiao Yuanshan's attacks were getting fiercer and fiercer. He had to admit that although his martial arts hadn't improved in the past 30 years, he had become more and more skilled and ruthless. His control of techniques was impeccable, especially the father and son. It was as if they were born with the halo of the god of war. They actually became braver and braver in an absolutely disadvantageous situation. He couldn't help but think of the bloody scene outside Yinmen Pass 30 years ago. He couldn't help but be secretly shocked. A faint trace of fear rose in his heart. In another 200 or 300 moves, he might be controlled. But this wasn't what Xian Ci was most worried about. What he was most worried about was the master of the Ryong Palace, mentioned by Zhao Min. He didn't know where they were hiding. If the Ryong Palace took advantage of the fight between the two sides, they would repeat the humiliation of being trapped in the Wan'an Temple. If that happened, he, the abbot, would really become a sinner for all eternity. Seeing Zhao Min dancing like a beautiful swan, he knew that it would be difficult for those senior and junior brothers to subdue him in a short time. Xian Ci made a prompt decision and hurriedly shouted, "Set up the Luohan formation. Let's end this quickly." The group of monks was startled and reacted in an instant. Their shadows overlapped each other and began to move, no longer fighting aimlessly on their own like before. Chapter 1480. We can't let them form the formation. Zhao Min also reacted. Unfortunately, the Shaolin monks were all masters of the temple. Although this formation was usually set up by the temple's low-level disciples, and they were not very familiar with it, it was more than enough to deal with the seriously injured Xiao Feng, and Zhao Min could dodge the attacks around her with her magical steps. But after the opponents formed the Arhut formation, she found that her space to dodge was getting smaller and smaller. In addition, she had just learned the traceless sand steps and was not very familiar with it. Finally, she sprinted too far and did not have time to turn around. Her opponent took the opportunity to put the Buddhist commandment blade on her neck. Xiao Feng tried to save her, but unfortunately, he was seriously injured and was only holding on with his heroic spirit. At this moment, he could not even take care of himself. The one with the surname Song quickly surrendered. Otherwise, I'll kill this demonic woman and bury her with Senior Kong Xing. Kong Ji, who had been seriously injured by Xiao Yuanshan's formless finger of disaster, came to Zhao Min's side and shouted to Song Qing-shu, who was fighting fiercely on the other side. When Kong Xing was beheaded by a Hindu stanny of the Ruyang Palace, it was a great shame for the whole Shaolin Temple. Unfortunately, the other party was a Mongolian princess, so they could not find a chance to take revenge. In the past few years, people in Jianghu knew that Zhao Min and Zhang Wuji seemed to be a couple. However, in recent years, the two seem to have become enemies. From various signs, Zhao Min and Song Qingshu seem to be very close. As a high-level member of Shaolin Temple, Kong Ji naturally knew more about the relationship between them than ordinary people in Jianghu. At the same time, he secretly despised Zhao Min for being a demoness of a foreign tribe, fickle and fickle. Hearing Kong Ji's words, the four people who were fighting stopped at the same time. Even a ruthless person like Xian Cheng secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He felt lucky that he had controlled Zhao Min, otherwise it would have been really difficult to subdue Song Qingshu. Thinking of his ghostly speed just now, he still felt a lingering fear. Song Qingshu looked over there and saw that Zhao Min was being held hostage by the Shaolin monks. It seemed that if he answered no, he would die on the spot. Previously, Song Mao had always been tolerant in all aspects, lest he accidentally hurt the master's lives. Song Qingshu's voice was as cold as ice. He walked toward Zhao Min, leaving a series of afterimages behind him. "Don't come over." Seeing that Zhang Xian was getting closer and closer, Kong Ji panicked a little and threatened. Xian Cheng, Su Zhu, and Fong Zheng saw that the situation was bad and quickly flew towards Song Qingshu. Unfortunately, they couldn't keep up with his speed. Seeing that Song Qingshu was getting closer and closer, Kong Ji's eyes suddenly flashed with a tragic light, and the hand that was gripping Zhao Min's neck was about to twist. He was ready to sacrifice himself, but before he died, he wanted to take Zhao Min down with him. This could be considered as revenge for Kong Xing. However, his expression soon changed because he found that he couldn't control his hand. Although he was seriously injured by the formless finger of disaster, it was not difficult for him to twist the delicate neck of a little girl. However, he found that he couldn't move his hand. What shocked him even more was not his hand, but his whole body. He couldn't move at all, and could only watch as the other party got closer and closer. How is this possible? This was Kong Ji's last thought at this time. Then, everything went black in front of him, and he was sent flying like a kite with a broken string along with the other monks. Xian Cheng and the others who rushed over were all shocked. They had no time to attack Song Qingshu, so they could only grab their fellow disciples to absorb the impact. Otherwise, if they were to hit the ground or a tree, it was likely that only a few of them would survive. At this time, Song Qingshu didn't even look at them. He just held Zhao Min in his arms and gently stroked her snow-white and delicate neck. "Are you okay?" I'm fine." Being held in his arms in front of everyone, even with Zhao Min's temperament, she couldn't help but feel a little shy. Looking at the faint red mark on her neck, Song Qingshu said with self-blame, "It's all my fault. I caused you to encounter such danger." Surrounded by his masculine aura, Zhao Min couldn't help but feel her heartbeat accelerate. Suddenly, she felt that the other people around her were completely irrelevant. At this time, a discordant voice abruptly interrupted the charming atmosphere between the two. "Surnamed Song, you actually dared to use such a heavy hand. Aren't you still alive?" Song Qingshu glanced at Xian Cheng, angry at his interruption, so his tone was naturally not polite. "You." Xian Cheng's anger exploded, and the kasaya on his body suddenly bulged. However, because the kasaya had been somewhat torn by Xiao Yuanshan's whip, it quickly deflated and deflated. This movement and stillness seemed a little comical. Looking at the kasaya on his body that was like strips of cloth, Xian Cheng flew into a rage out of humiliation and said, "Surnamed Song, all the grudges between you and this temple over these years have been settled this time. And surnamed Zhao, I still haven't settled the score with you for what happened in Eternal Peace Temple." Song Qingshu said in a sarcastic tone, "If I, Song Qingshu, want to leave, who in this world can stop me? You might not be able to stay, but this Princess Zhao, Xiaofeng, and the others, none of them can escape." Xian Cheng said proudly with his chest puffed out. There was a different kind of confidence in his tone. After all, there were many experts in Shaolin now, so he naturally had this confidence. Is that so? Song Qingshu's tone was sarcastic. But why should I leave? Xian Cheng was stunned, but he quickly made up his mind. If you don't want to leave, then stay here with them. He had already made up his mind. Although keeping Song Qingshu would probably cause Shaolin to suffer heavy losses, it was better to get the pain over with than to let Song Qingshu continue to grow and become Shaolin's enemy in the future. It was better to pay a high price to keep him here today. You want to keep me here? Song Qingshu suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed loudly. Hearing this, the Shaolin monk's expressions changed, thinking that this guy's internal energy was really terrifying. Because of the interlude just now, Xiao Yuanshan and Xiao Feng also stopped. The Shaolin monks set up the Luohan formation, faintly surrounding them in the center, and temporarily did not continue to attack. You can put me aside so that I won't be a burden to you later. Xiaomin pulled on Song Qingshu's sleeve and whispered. She had just witnessed a scene of Song Qingshu fighting 1 against 4. She knew that if she stayed by his side and caused him to be restrained, he would definitely lose. I won't let you take the slightest risk. Only staying by my side is the safest. Song Qingshu shook his head and softly refused. Zhao Min's heart warmed, and she unnaturally wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes, thinking that this bastard was really a master at flirting with girls. Unknowingly, he had moved her. After all, she still had some rationality left. She said with some worry, but no buts. Song Qingshu interrupted her and turned to face Xian Cheng. Didn't you just say that this is not like the Golden Snake Gathering? Without the weapons in the hands of the heroes, my 10,000 swords returning to sect is also useless? Xian Cheng's heart skipped a beat, but he still felt that this guess was not very likely. He raised his head and snorted. That's right. What's more, today we have so many masters. The final result will only be that many of us will be seriously injured, and you will definitely die. Amiba, Xian Xi, Fang Zheng, Su Zhu, and the others all chanted the name of Buddha and took a step forward. The rest of the Kong and Xian Generation Senior monks also set up the Arhut formation. As soon as the order was given, they would launch a thunderous attack. Although many of them, such as Fang Zheng, felt that it was not a wise choice to fight to the death with Song Qingshu, but things had already developed to this point. This small group of people could only listen to the arrangements of the entire temple. How terrifying was the combined aura of so many martial arts experts. The pressure covered the sky and the earth. Even Xiao Feng and Xiao Yuanshan's expressions changed greatly, and their breathing quickened. As for Ah Zhu and Ah Zi, they had already fallen to the ground. Only Zhao Min, who was protected by Song Qingshu, did not feel too much pressure. It seems that you really want to kill me. Song Qingshu sneered and suddenly raised his hand slowly. The air around them had been suppressed by the mighty pressure of the Shaolin masters to the point that there was no wind at all. But now, it was moving even though there was no wind, as if an invisible tornado had appeared. The leaves on the ground were all swept up. This is Xian Xi, Xian Cheng, and the others looked at each other in shock because they felt a terrifying momentum erupt from the center of the battlefield. Stop him! This was the consensus of the few of them. Xian Xi, Xian Cheng, Fang Zheng, and Su Zhu rushed over at the same time, not wanting the other party to finish accumulating power. Each of them used their life's unique skills. Great Vajra Palm, Prajna Palm, Thousand Buddha's Palm, with Burning Saber technique, and all slashed at Song Qingshu's body. However, when their palm wind and saber chi entered within 3 feet of the other party, they disappeared without a trace, as if they had been instantly destroyed. Before the 4 of them had time to be shocked, they suddenly felt a sense of alarm in their hearts, as if there were countless sharp swords shooting toward them. The 4 monks were shocked, and they used their lifetime's unique skills to resolve the crisis in front of them. At the same time, they retreated at a faster speed. When the 4 of them regained their balance, they found that the robes on their chests were broken, and there were even faint traces of blood on their skin. They could not help but be shocked, and they all looked at the battlefield. The air around Song Qingshu no longer seemed to be air, but a kind of crystal clear and viscous substance, but it was infinitely sharp and powerful. "What is that?" Xian Ci muttered to herself, and Xian Cheng and the others were also puzzled. "Sword Qi." It was unknown who shouted, but when Xian Ci and the others looked over, they found that the air around Song Qingshu was flowing, and there were tens of thousands of transparent swords floating in the air. These swords slowly moved around Song Qingshu's body, not only protecting him, but also ready to attack. It was as long as Song Qingshu willed it, these swords would fly out, leaving not even a blade of grass behind. Because these sword qis were originally transparent, Xian Ci, Xian Cheng, and the others didn't see them at first. But as the angle of the sunlight changed, as well as the dust and leaves flying in the air, they finally faintly saw the outline of the sword qis. Chapter 1481. At this moment, Song Qingshu was lost in his memories. As a traveler, he had watched wind and cloud and was deeply impressed by the ancestral swords and Sword 23. Coincidentally, he had also learned these two martial arts by accident in this world. The first paragraph of Million Returning to Origin was, "All qi is born by itself, and the sword rushes through the wasted acupoints. The kung fu of returning to origin is the greatest." Most cultivators were completely confused and did not know what was going on. Song Qingshu, who had a god's perspective, naturally knew that the key to sect origin swords was to first cripple one's martial arts and turn oneself into a blank piece of paper. Then, he would refine his inner energy and condense every trace of inner energy into sword qi. Only then would he be able to master sect origin swords. Coincidentally, Song Qingshu was ambushed by Lord Ming on Blackwood Cliff and lost all his kung fu. In the end, he learned Mary Zen from the Tibetan esoteric sect and recovered his kung fu. During that time, the concept of Million Returning to Origin that he had read in his previous life kept popping up in his mind. Therefore, when he started to refine his internal force, he consciously turned it into sword qi. Coupled with the powerful integration characteristic of the delightful Zen, he managed to master it in the end. However, it was all on his own, so he encountered all kinds of problems along the way. As a result, the ancestral swords was not perfect. It was not until he went to the Isle of Heroes and practiced the Taishian Sutra that he combined all the sword art, palm art, internal energy, and lightness skill that he had learned in his life into one. Not only did he comprehend the 23 swords, but he also finally reached the advanced level of the ancestral swords. At this moment, countless sword qi appeared around him. Song Qingshu said calmly, "There is no irreconcilable grudge between me and Shaolin, and I have been merciful to you. I didn't expect that you would still want to kill me. If so, all of you, go to hell." There was suddenly a hint of madness in his voice. The countless sword qis that had been swimming slowly around the area just now shot out and charged at the Shaolin Temple monks. "Disperse!" Xian Ci turned pale with fright and hurriedly shouted. He was, after all, a top-notch expert. His keen judgment was that when it came to this kind of group attack, the denser the formation, the greater the losses. In the face of the sword energy that filled the sky, the Shaolin monks were shocked and could only instinctively use their special skills to resist. However, no one knew what this invisible sword energy was condensed from, but it could be said to be invincible. The Buddhist staffs, whistling sticks, and Buddhist commandment blades in the hands of the Shaolin monks only managed to block 1 or 2 slashes of the sword before they snapped in half. It was as if they had been cut in half by the Etian sword or the dragon-slaying saber. Without their weapons, many of them instantly had bloody holes appearing on their bodies. They had already been struck by the sword energy. Fang Zheng was a kind-hearted person. When he saw many of his companions lying in pools of blood, he hurriedly ran over and stood in front of them, blocking the incoming sword qi for them. However, his 1,000 Buddha palm was quickly defeated. At the critical moment, he used the Vajra meditation lion roar. The sound waves visible to the naked eye spread out and dispersed the oncoming sword qi. However, he knew that the lion roar consumed a lot of internal energy. He could not keep roaring like this. Once he ran out of breath, the opponent's sword energy would instantly drown them. Song Qingshu had a good impression of Fang Zheng, the kind-looking monk. When he saw that it was Fang Zheng, he secretly held back a bit of his strength. However, he didn't have such a good temper towards the others. Xian Xi appeared to be merciful, but he had watched the people who were related to the Battle of Yinmen pass die one after another. He had never come out to face Qiao Feng. That was not all. What was worse was that he knew that his lover, Yi Ernyang, had committed crimes in Jianghu and killed children, but he had never cared about it. As for Xuzhu, he had been an honest monk. However, the Xuzhu of this world was very different from the one in Song Qingshu's memory. He looked honest and sincere, but in fact he was two-faced and cunning. Song Qingshu even wondered if he had also been possessed by an old monster like the venerated Ming. As for Xiancheng, he was brave and fierce. He did not look like a monk at all, and he was very murderous. It was not the first time that they had clashed. Today it was time to end it. Song Qingshu raised his hand, and the second wave of even more terrible sword qi attacked the Shaolin monks. At this time, the rest of the monks were seriously injured and fell to the ground. Only Xian Xi, Xiancheng, Fang Zheng, and Xuzhu were still standing. Xian Xi kept using the Kasaya exorcism skill to repel the sword qi, and from time to time, he used the Vajra palm to attack the unavoidable sword qi. Even so, more and more wounds were left on his body. At first, Xuzhu tried to absorb the sword qi with the dark North Divine Kung Fu. However, as soon as he absorbed a wisp of sword qi, he felt a sharp pain in his meridians. He was so scared that he immediately gave up the idea of absorbing the sword qi. Instead, he used the dark North Genuine Qi to activate the wood-burning bladesmanship to deal with the sword qi. The wood-burning bladesmanship, which he activated with the dark North Genuine Qi, was similar to Jiu Maji's flame bladesmanship. It was also a first-class martial art in the world. However, it was a pity that Song Qingshu's 10,000 swords returning to origin was invisible. It could be said that it was a 360-degree saturated attack with no blind spots. No matter how wonderful Xuzhu's bladesmanship was, he could not protect his whole body at the same time. Therefore, he was constantly hit by the sword qi. His body was covered with blood and sweat, and he looked very embarrassed. Relatively speaking, Xiancheng was in the best situation. After all, he was known as the #1 in Shaolin in the past 200 years, and he had the protection of Vajra body indestructible divine Kung Fu. His personal defense was obviously stronger than the others. However, he was also very embarrassed by the sword qi. At this time, the people around Song Qingshu had different expressions. Xiao Feng smiled bitterly. When he first saw the six-pulse magic sword, he was shocked. Now seeing the sword qi all over the sky, he really did not know how to describe his feelings at the moment. Before, he thought that Xiancheng's martial arts were almost the same as his. Even if Xiancheng's martial arts were better, there was a limit. Now it seemed that he had been too arrogant. Xiao Yuanshan was even more shocked. He thought that he had secretly studied in the Sutras Pavilion of the Shaolin Temple for 30 years and had seen many unique martial arts. But was his 10,000 swords returning to origin really a martial art in the human world? Azu lightly covered her mouth. Although she was shocked, she was more happy. Back then, when Song Qingshu was in dire straits, they had become friends because of the secret perfume recipe. Now that she saw that he had actually grown to such a level, she was extremely gratified. Aziz's eyes were rolling. Originally, when she woke up from the soul transfer technique, her first reaction was to be extremely angry. She had painstakingly preserved her chastity in the Xingqiu sect's dangerous environment, but she had lost it so carelessly. Naturally, she could not just let it go. But now that she saw Song Qingshu's amazing martial arts again, she suddenly dispelled the idea of revenge. It seems like I'm not too bad with him. Aziz had grown up in an evil sect after all. She believed in the concept of the strong being respected. Now, that Song Qingshu was so strong that she could not even think of resisting, she might as well completely surrender. As for love, what was that? At this time, Zhao Min was in Song Qingshu's arms. The impact that the sword qi that filled the sky brought to her was even more obvious. Looking at the crystal-clear sword qi, she could not help but exclaim, "So beautiful." She thought to herself, this guy is really a bastard. He is obviously so powerful, but he deliberately pretended to be like that just to make me worry for him. Although she was cursing in her heart, the corner of Zhao Min's mouth still slightly curled up. She enjoyed everything in front of her, as if she was watching a gorgeous firework. But suddenly, her delicate eyebrows furrowed because she saw a big, annoying bald head. It turned out that Xian Cheng realized that he would not be able to hold on if he was passively attacked like this. So, he simply circulated the Vajra indestructible divine art and let the sword qi hit his body. Step by step, he walked in the direction of Song Qingshu, planning to fight him in close combat so that he would not have the energy to control the sword qi that filled the sky. Seeing him approaching, Song Qingshu coldly snorted. With a wave of his hand, more than half of the sword qi shot towards Xian Cheng. Xian Cheng grunted and could no longer take half a step forward. He could only circulate all his power to resist the erosion of the opponent's sword qi. Not only could he not move forward, but he even slowly retreated. Vajra indestructible body, one of the 5 great divine arts of the ancient and modern times. What a great name. Song Qingshu's tone carried a hint of ridicule. Suddenly, his voice turned cold. Then today, I will break this legend. After saying that, he stretched out his hand and twisted it. The sword qi that filled the sky instantly rotated rapidly and attacked Xian Cheng. At this time, Xian Cheng used the Vajra indestructible body to resist the sword qi. He did not dare to be distracted at all, so he could only watch the spiral sword qi attack his chest. The golden light on Xian Cheng's body instantly dimmed, and then there was a sound like an eggshell breaking. Xian Cheng spat out a large mouthful of blood, and then he could no longer stand and fell to the ground. Song Qingshu had to admit that the Vajra indestructible body was known as one of the 5 great divine arts of the ancient and modern times. It really deserved its reputation. He thought that this blow would take the opponent's life, but who knew that it would only seriously injure him? It had to be known that after the sword qi spiraled, the impact was many times greater than before, but Xian Cheng was still able to resist it. Because Xian Cheng had attracted most of the sword qi, Xian Xi, Xuzhu, Fang Zheng, and the others were barely able to resist. Song Qingshu snorted and waved his hand. The crisscrossing sword qi instantly swept towards the 3 of them. Xian Xi and Xuzhu screamed as a few horrible bloody holes appeared on their bodies. If they were not strong enough, they would have died on the spot. Because he admired Fang Zheng's character, Song Qingshu did not use a heavy hand on him. He only temporarily made him lose his combat strength. Seeing that a large number of Shaolin disciples had fallen, Song Qingshu said lightly, "Let's put an end to the grudges between us today." Not far away, Xian Cheng and Xuzhu's life and death were unknown. The other monks had also lost their combat strength. Xian Xi smiled sadly and said, "I never thought that your martial arts had reached this level." Song Qingshu said coldly, "Fortunately, my martial arts have reached this level. Otherwise, wouldn't I have been killed by you today? In the beginning, it was only because of our respective positions that we had some conflicts with your temple, but there was no irreconcilable enmity between the 2 sides. Who knew that, as my power grew, you became more and more like a fishbone stuck in your throat? You wanted to get rid of me as soon as possible. Not only did you arrange for Chen Yuliang to return to the beggar sect to restrain the Golden Snake Camp some time ago, but now you're trying to kill me in one fell swoop. Let's start with Xuzhu." Chapter 1482. Song Qingshu didn't know what was going on with Xuzhu in this world. He looked honest, but he was cunning. Song Qingshu didn't know if Xuzhu had been possessed by an old monster like the Lord of Ming. Thinking about how Xuzhu had tried to kill him several times, Song Qingshu was annoyed. He was too lazy to think about the reason, so he decided to get rid of this trouble once and for all. Of course, He maintained his rationality and didn't plan to completely destroy the Shaolin Temple. After all, the Shaolin Temple was the most powerful temple in the martial arts world. If it was completely destroyed, the impact would be too great. However, there were a few people who had to be eliminated. Otherwise, with them interfering, the relationship between the Shaolin Temple and the Shaolin Temple would never be eased. Xiansheng and Xuzhu were on the list. Xiansheng had just resisted the 10,000 returning to origin swords, and his indestructible body was broken by the sword qi. Even if he didn't die, he would be half crippled. On the other hand, Xuzhu was not the main target of the sword qi. Although he was injured, he would be full of vigor after he recovered. Therefore, Song Qingshu chose him as his first target. Xian Xi, Fang Zheng, and the others exclaimed. Unfortunately, they were injured and had no spare strength to stop the sword qi. They could only watch the sword qi shoot towards Xuzhu. However, the moment before the sword qi hit Xuzhu, ripples suddenly appeared in front of Xuzhu. A skinny monk in a green robe appeared in front of him. The monk put his palms together and said, Amitba, the sword qi that was shot out earlier seemed to have encountered a layer of extremely soft, yet extremely hard barrier. With a few sizzling sounds, the sword qi disappeared without a trace. Sweeping monk. Song Qingshu's pupils shrank as he recognized the old monk who had appeared. The sweeping monk smiled and spoke first. Layman Song, long time no see. Greetings, senior. Song Qingshu didn't know why the monk had come, so he didn't know what to say. Xuzhu couldn't get rid of greed, anger, and obsession. He offended you and was injured by you. He deserved it. There was a trace of regret in the monk's tone. However, this child has a deep relationship with me, so I can't just stand by and watch. I hope that benefactor Song will be merciful. Song Qingshu's expression changed. It was clear from the monk's attitude that he wanted to protect Xuzhu. It had to be known that he was the most famous and mysterious expert in the Golden Book system. He was one of the 3 most powerful existences in the world, and he could not be underestimated. I was wondering why Xuzhu was so good at martial arts at such a young age. He was even proficient in the 72 ultimate skills of Shaolin Temple. So it was all thanks to Senior. At this point, how could Song Qingshu not understand? There was no exquisite chess game in this world, but Xuzhu still had mysterious martial arts. After thinking about it, only the sweeping monk had this ability. The sweeping monk shook his head. Our sect's martial art was passed down from Bodhidharma ancestor. Buddhist disciples learned martial arts to strengthen their bodies and to protect and subdue demons. When practicing martial arts, they always have a compassionate and benevolent heart. If they don't use Buddhism as their foundation, they will hurt themselves when practicing martial arts. If they don't practice the 72 ultimate skills, if they don't use the compassionate Buddhist method to neutralize it, the evil energy will penetrate deep into the internal organs. It will become 100 times more powerful than any external poison. For thousands of years, Shaolin disciples have come out in large numbers, but at most, they can only practice 12 or 13 of the skills. No one has been able to practice the 72 ultimate skills. The reason why Xuzhu knows so many skills is because he used the Taoist minor non-phase method to activate them. He only has the form of the 72 ultimate skills, but not the 72 ultimate skills. Even so, he has suffered a serious internal injury. It's fine because he is still young, but in a few years, his internal injury will flare up, and I'm afraid he will be bedridden. These words shocked everyone present. Among the Shaolin monks, only Xian Xi, Fang Zheng, and a few others knew about this. The rest of them didn't know that Xuzhu was using the minor non-phase method. They thought that there was a young genius who was proficient in the 72 ultimate skills. Now that they knew the truth, they felt a sense of disappointment and frustration. Coupled with the fact that they were defeated by Song Qingshu, everyone's hearts were filled with despair. Xiao Yuanshan's expression also changed greatly. He had been practicing the Shaolin ultimate skills, and the pain in some of his acupuncture points had become more and more serious. Previously, he thought it was because he was seriously injured in his early years, and because he was getting older, he didn't expect it to be because he was practicing the Shaolin ultimate skills. As for Song Qing-shu, he had heard these words in his previous life. At this time, he was far less shocked than Xiao Yuanshan and the other Shaolin monks. However, he also admired the sweeping monk for pointing out that Shuzhu was using the minor non-phase method to cheat. It has to be known that in troubled times, if there was a young disciple who was proficient in the 72 ultimate skills, it would be a big gimmick. Senior, do you really want to protect him? However, admiration was one thing, and letting Shuzhu go was another. Good. The sweeping monk put his palms together and said, I hope Benefactor Song will be magnanimous. Although his eyes were lifeless, and he stood there like an ordinary old man who didn't know martial arts at all, Song Qing-shu didn't dare to underestimate him. Only people who had reached his cultivation level could see that the other party had returned to his natural state and was one with the aura of heaven and earth. Attacking him was like going against heaven and earth. However, although he was strong, Song Qing-shu was not afraid at all. A golden light gradually appeared in the depths of his eyes, as if there was a little golden person faintly jumping. Previously, the sweeping monk still had a calm appearance, but when he saw the golden light in the other party's eyes, his body trembled and his expression changed greatly. He had a very strong sense of crisis. Every cell in his body seemed to be warning him of the danger the other party was in. The sweeping monk's face was dignified. He took out a broom from somewhere and placed it in front of him. His aura was no longer as calm as before. Instead, he released his aura as if he was ready to strike at any time. However, in the end, Song Qing-shu didn't make a move. The golden light in his eyes gradually faded and finally returned to normal. After the lion slaying convention, I received guidance from Senior. Song Mao has always remembered this kindness in his heart. Back then, when his tendons and veins were broken, he was discouraged by the sweeping monk's guidance. In addition, the other party had given him a wisp of jinqi to protect his heart meridian. Song Qing-shu had always remembered this matter. He was a person who would repay kindness. Naturally, he didn't want to fight to the death with the sweeping monk here. Today, for the sake of Senior, I will spare them this time, but next time. He didn't finish his sentence, but his meaning was clear. Thank you, Benefactor Song. The sweeping monk secretly wiped his cold sweat and looked at Song Qing-shu with some bewilderment. He did not know what had happened just now, but that sense of life and death crisis was too strong. Ever since he had achieved great success in martial arts, he had never felt something like this. The sweeping monk boasted that he knew a little about martial arts in the world, but the golden light in Song Qing-shu's eyes just now could be said to be unheard of. He didn't know what kind of martial arts it was. Sure enough, the new generation surpassed the old. The sweeping monk secretly sighed, turned to Xian Ci and the others and said, "Let's go." Just like that, Xian Ci was stunned. In his heart, the sweeping monk was an invincible existence. No matter how high Song Qing-shu's martial arts were, it was impossible for him to be a match for the sweeping monk. But there are so many people in the temple who are seriously injured. Before he finished speaking, a monk who went to help Xian Cheng exclaimed, "Senior brother Xian Cheng's meridians are all broken." The Shaolin monks all cried out in alarm. It should be known that Xian Cheng was the #1 master in Shaolin Temple. Now, that his meridians were all broken, it was obvious that his martial arts had been crippled. It should be known that in Jianghu, the crippled martial arts could be compared to a mortal enemy. However, these people knew that they were no match for Song Qing-shu, so they could only look to the sweeping monk for help, hoping that he would come forward to uphold justice. Who would have thought that the sweeping monk slowly shook his head and said, "Our temple has 72 unique skills, each of which can hurt people's vital points and take their lives. They are fierce and ruthless and go against the harmony of heaven and earth. Therefore, each unique skill must have a corresponding compassion to dissolve it. This truth is not known to all monks in our temple, but after a person has practiced 4 or 5 unique skills, his understanding of Zen will naturally be hindered. In our Shaolin temple, this is called martial arts barrier, the same as the knowledge barrier of other sects and sections. You must know that Buddhism seeks to save the world, and martial arts seeks to kill. The two are opposite and mutually restrained. Only the higher one's dharma is, the more compassionate one will be, and the more one will be able to practice martial arts. But a monk who has reached such a high level of cultivation would disdain to learn more powerful killing techniques. The sweeping monk continued. In our temple, naturally there are people whose Buddhism cultivation is insufficient, yet they want to learn more advanced martial arts. But if they continue to practice, they will either enter the devil's path or suffer internal injury that is difficult to heal. When Xin Chengdashi came to the Sutra Depository Pavilion to pick up the ancient martial art books, Lao Na had reminded him 3 times, but he still refused to come to his senses. Now it is difficult for him to turn back. Even if he was not injured by Song Jusher's hand today, within 3 years his tendons and meridians will suddenly break in one night, and he will become a cripple. Amitabha. There was no lack of Shaolin eminent monks present. After hearing this, they were shocked, but they also felt enlightened, as if they had faintly understood something. The sweeping monk's eyes showed compassion. Actually, the 5 accumulations are empty. The body is injured. From now on, he cannot practice martial art. He diligently practiced Buddhism, and from this he was enlightened. It is really a blessing in disguise. If the master still insists on his martial art being crippled, it is really too much. Fang Zheng was the first to understand, and he put his palms together. Thank you for your understanding. The rest of the monks also gradually understood, and all agreed. The sweeping monk nodded, his face showing a gratified expression. Let's go. But Xiao Yuanshan secretly learned our temple's martial arts, if it falls into the hands of the foreign tribes. Kongwen was heavily injured and weak, but he still couldn't help but ask. As soon as he said this, Xiao Feng and his son's expressions changed, because they could already see that this monk who suddenly appeared was simply unfathomable. If he really attacked Xiao Yuanshan, they were afraid. The sweeping monk turned back to look at Xiao Yuanshan and said, Jusher Xiao, recently the Liang men and acupoints on your lower abdomen. Do you feel faint pain? Xiao Yuanshan's whole body shivered and said, Divine monk, it is indeed so. The sweeping monk continued, Your Guanyuan acupoint is numb. How is it recently? Xiao Yuanshan was even more shocked and said with a trembling voice, 10 years ago this numbness was only the size of a little finger. Now, it is almost the size of teacup. The sweeping monk sighed. Just now I've already said, in order to practice our temple's martial arts, you must use the corresponding Buddhism to dispel the evil energy. Jusher Xiao is already on the verge of qi deviation. Xiao Feng and his son were both shocked. Xiao Feng wanted to open his mouth to ask for help, but when he thought about how he had just fought with the Shaolin people to the death, he couldn't bring himself to ask for help. Chapter 1483. Amitabha. The monks of Shaolin put their palms together. Master, you are right. Even someone like Xiao Yuanshan, who hated Shaolin to the bone, had to admit that the words of the sweeping monk were filled with compassion for the state of the universe and the people. Xiao Feng hesitated for a long time and finally asked, Master, please save my father. Xiao Yuanshan's expression changed slightly. He hated Shaolin so much that he didn't want to ask for help from Shaolin. However, the monk was very aloof, and the pain in his acupoints was getting worse and worse. In the end, he acquiesced. The monk replied, In fact, I have already said the treatment method. As long as your father gives up the butcher's knife and follows me back to the back mountain of Shaolin Temple to study Buddhism, after a few years, he will be able to gradually dissolve the evil in his body, and the hidden injuries in his body will be healed without medicine. Xiao Yuanshan's expression suddenly changed. You want to imprison me in Shaolin? No way. Xiao Feng was also surprised. With the grudge between his father and Shaolin, letting him stay in Shaolin was like sending a sheep into a tiger's mouth. How would he feel at ease? The monk shook his head with a bitter smile. Lay Buddhist Xiao, you misunderstood. Ah well, when Lay Buddhist Xiao thinks it through, come to Shaolin to find me. After answering Xiao Feng's question, the monk did not stay any longer and gradually left with the people of Shaolin. Looking at their leaving figures, Song Qing-shu was a little annoyed. He thought that this time he had completely become enemies with Shaolin. He didn't know what they would do in the future. However, he had received the monk's kindness that day, so he had to give him some face. Moreover, he couldn't really kill them all. How to deal with the relationship with Shaolin was really a headache. Are you worrying about how to deal with the relationship with Shaolin in the future? Xiaomin seemed to have guessed his worries and asked. Yes. Song Qing-shu smiled bitterly. Shaolin has a special position in the Central Plains. It is the holy land of Buddhism in many people's hearts. It is really annoying that we can't beat them or kill them. Isn't that easy? The corners of Zhao Min's mouth rose slightly. You have to figure out which ones in Shaolin are your enemies and which ones can be won over. When the time comes, you can suppress your enemies and support the faction that favors you. Isn't that good enough? Song Qing-shu was overjoyed. Min, your idea is actually similar to Taizu's. Who is Taizu? Zhao Min was startled, wondering which dynasty's Taizu she was thinking of. Song Qing-shu didn't explain and just said with a smile, Min, you've solved a big problem for me. I really want to kiss you. Zhao Min's face turned red. Only then did she realize that she was still in his arms. She hurriedly pushed him away and spat. If you have the ability, talk to me like this in front of Zhao. Song Qing-shu's face stiffened, and he laughed awkwardly. Thank you for your help, Brother Song. Xiao Feng and Xiao Yuanshan walked over together and thanked him. If you hadn't helped us today, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to escape. Let's not talk about Brother Zhao's friendship when a Manchurian army attacked the south. Just based on Brother Zhao's indomitable character, I have always admired Brother Zhao's indomitable spirit. Naturally, I wouldn't just stand by and watch. Song Qing-shu returned the courtesy. Actually, with Brother Zhao's and your father's martial arts, if you weren't injured, these Shaolin masters wouldn't have been able to stop you. Song Qing-shu couldn't help but ask curiously, with Brother Zhao's martial arts and alertness, how did you get such serious injuries? It's a long story. Xiao Feng smiled bitterly. Halfway through his sentence, he suddenly fainted. Fortunately, Xiao Yuanshan and Azu, who were next to him, held him up. Otherwise, he would have directly fallen to the ground. It turned out that he was seriously injured. Previously, he had relied on the heroic spirit in his chest to barely hold on. Then, he fought with the Shaolin masters and had long since overdrafted his energy. Now that the danger had passed and he could relax, he naturally couldn't hold on. Song Qing-shu took his pulse. After a long time, he said to the nervous Azu and the others, Don't worry, he just lost too much blood. Adding to that, he forcefully circulated his energy after being seriously injured, causing him to faint. But his body's foundation is good. As long as there's someone to treat his injuries, it won't be a big problem. At the same time, he secretly admired Xiao Feng's family's talent. It must be known that in Jianghu, there were many secret techniques of the demonic path, such as the great art of burning blood, the art of demonic dissolution, etc., that could raise one's battle power in a short period of time. But Xiao Feng and his father seemed to have the bloodline of the god of war. In a life and death crisis, they could enter a berserk and bloodthirsty state. Their martial arts and battle power would be even more terrifying than usual. The group of people brought the unconscious Xiao Feng to a nearby town to stay for the night. Xiao Yuanshan helped treat his injuries. Song Qing-shu thought that Xiao Yuanshan's internal energy was deep and that it was enough to treat Xiao Feng's injuries. So, he didn't join the fun. As for Azu, she was standing at the side, wiping her sweat and taking care of Xiao Feng. Azi also wanted to help, but she was called to his room by Song Qing-shu. Azi revealed a hesitant expression, but it was a pity that Song Qing-shu had just displayed his invincible might. She didn't dare to go against his will, so she could only come over while trembling with fear. Azi, you got some guts. Song Qing-shu raised his teacup, sizing up the young girl who had just entered the room with a smile that wasn't a smile. Zhao Min, who was at the side, was shocked. You two know each other? Song Qing-shu faintly smiled, but before he could answer, Azi very cleverly ran over. This must be Mistress. I'm master's maid, Azi. Greetings, mistress. Zhao Min's face flushed red. Although there was some ambiguity between her and Song Qingshu now, they hadn't broken through that layer of window paper. Being called by an outsider like this, she felt embarrassed and shy, but a faint joy rose in her heart. Azi was the best at reading people's expressions. Looking at Zhao Min's expression, she knew that her flattery was just right. Striking while the iron was hot, she squatted down beside Zhao Min and started massaging her legs. Song Qingshu snorted in annoyance. It's not like you haven't seen your mistress when you were in the Golden Snake Camp. Are you going to lie with your eyes open now? Hearing his words, Zhao Min couldn't help but turn around and glare at him fiercely. Only then did Song Qingshu realize that he had unintentionally offended her. Master, you're handsome and elegant. It can be said that you're popular with thousands of girls. It's not surprising that you have many mistresses. Azi reacted very quickly. Song Qingshu scolded in annoyance. What did you learn to flatter? I don't like it here. Azi saw that although he said he didn't like it, his expression couldn't help but be proud. Without any hesitation, she threw a bunch of exaggerated and gorgeous words over, making Song Qingshu dizzy. Zhao Min, who was at the side, had a strange expression. Where did you find this flatterer? Azi just said it because I felt it. Azi said, I think this girl is as beautiful as a peach and as bright as a rose. Especially between her brows, there's a heroic spirit that other girls rarely have. She's not inferior to the mistresses of the Golden Snake Camp at all. Master, you and her are a match made in heaven. Her words made Zhao Min's heart tremble. She scolded with a smile. All right. Song Qingshu finally couldn't listen to it anymore. Do you think that by flattering me so much, I won't punish you for the crime of running away without permission? I'm wrong, master. Azi rolled her eyes. She had already thought of an excuse. I didn't run away. I went out to look for beauties for master. Seeing that Zhao Min's eyes were gradually turning cold, Song Qingshu hurriedly said, Don't talk nonsense. I'm not a licentious person. Why would I need you to look for beauties? You're very busy every day. Naturally, you don't have time to arrange these things. But as servants, we naturally have to be clever and share master's worries. Azi quickly answered, You're so energetic and fierce. Ordinary girls can't satisfy you. The mistresses are busy with work and have no time to accompany you. So I volunteered to help master find confidant. You're getting more and more ridiculous. Song Qingshu glared at her fiercely. Although Zhao Min was usually proactive and enthusiastic, she was an unmarried girl after all. Hearing that the two seemed to be talking about something related to bed, she couldn't help but blush. Seeing that Song Qingshu seemed to be about to interrupt Azi, Zhao Min suddenly said, Miss Azi, you said that you're looking for a confidant for your master. Have you found one? Seeing her fake smile, Song Qingshu secretly complained. He thought that Azi was really looking for trouble for him. Hearing the unfriendliness in Zhao Min's tone and Song Qingshu's constipated expression, Azi suddenly realized that it wasn't very wise for her to say these things in front of Zhao Min. Her eyes rolled, and she already had a plan in mind. I was excited before, but now I realize that I'm simply overestimating myself. What do you mean? Zhao Min frowned and asked. I've been busy for a few months, and all I've found are mediocre beauties. How can I be like you, master, who can find a beauty like Miss Zhao so casually? If this isn't me overestimating myself, then what is it? Azi purposely put on a dejected expression. With Zhao Min's intelligence, she naturally understood that Azi was deliberately flattering her. However, these words just happened to scratch her itch. She couldn't help but laugh. You're quite an interesting girl. Song Qingshu was speechless. You said that looking for a confidant is just an excuse. In reality, you're just running away. I'm really looking for someone for you. After seeing his power, Azi knew that if he really wanted to touch her, even Xiao Feng and Xiao Yuanshan together would not be able to save her. Moreover, the two of them might not offend him for her sake. She was so frightened that she spoke incoherently. I can prove it to you. Azu. Yes, Azu is the target I'm looking for you. Although she's not as stunning as Miss Zhao, she's still an outstanding beauty. Plus, she's my sister. We can serve you together and give you a different feeling. Cough, cough, cough. Hearing that her words were getting more and more ridiculous, Song Qingshu hurriedly interrupted. What nonsense are you talking about? Azu is brother Zhao's confidant. Chapter 1484. Stop. Song Qingshu hurriedly covered Ah Zi's mouth, worried that she would say something even more exaggerated. Zhao looked at him with a faint smile. Why don't you let Lady Ah Zi speak? I think it's quite interesting. Cough, cough. Song Qingshu drank a mouthful of tea and choked. How is it interesting? Don't let brother Xiao hear these words. My reputation in this area has always been bad. I can't let him misunderstand. Zhao Min's smile became even wider. You also know that your reputation isn't good. Song Qingshu's expression became solemn. Although I am a bit lecherous, why would I covet my brother's woman? When he said this, he couldn't help but feel a bit guilty. However, he didn't lie this time. Although Azu was pretty, she was far from being able to make Song Qingshu disregard his friendship with Xiaofeng. Moreover, he was currently in a lot of trouble with women, which was about to develop into a disaster. How could he have the mood to casually flirt with other women? Zhao Min still wanted to say something, but Song Qingshu's expression suddenly changed. Someone is coming. Not long after, Xiaofeng's forthright voice came from outside the door. Brother Song, go down and drink. Azi had already considerately ran over to open the door, and Song Qingshu saw Xiaofeng, Xiao Yuanshan, and Azu standing at the door, smiling as they invited him. Xiao Yuanshan's internal energy was indeed profound. In such a short time, he had temporarily stabilized Xiaofeng's internal injuries. Song Qingshu stood up with a strange expression. Brother Xiao, you are seriously injured. Drinking at this time? Xiaofeng laughed and patted his chest. Wine may be poison to others, but to me, it's a tonic. The more I drink, the faster my injuries heal. Song Qingshu smiled bitterly. Brother Xiao is really talented. Zhao Min also walked to his side and said with some admiration, King Xiao is really heroic. I admire you. Xiaofeng cupped his hands and said, I still haven't thanked the princess for your help. Liao and Mongolia were allies. One was the king of Liao's southern courtyard, and the other was the princess of Mongolia. Naturally, both sides had many dealings with each other. Zhao Min pursed her lips and smiled. Xiao Wangya is too polite. The group chatted as they walked down. Asa couldn't help but ask curiously, Prince Song, do you know Z? Unlike Zi, she was extremely happy to be reunited with her sister this time. She cherished this sisterly relationship very much. Earlier, she was busy taking care of Xiaofeng and did not have the time to ask. Now that she was slightly free, she could not help but ask. Song Qingshu glanced at Azi and revealed a playful smile. Yeah, we know each other, and we're very familiar with each other. He thought to himself, I even know her so well, so how could I not be familiar with her? The rest of the people present were either gentlemen or people of noble birth, so they couldn't understand the hidden meaning in his words. Only Azi, who was from an evil sect, understood it instantly, and her pretty face couldn't help but blush. Last time, I was also chased by those Shaolin. Thank you for saving me, young master. Zi didn't know why, but she didn't want them to know about her relationship with Song Qingshu, so she deliberately gave a vague explanation. Song Qingshu glanced at her with a faint smile, but did not say anything. Then we are really fated. Xiaofeng laughed and asked everyone to sit down. Then he directly shouted, Waiter, give me 10 caddies of beef and 10 caddies of good wine. Song Qingshu was speechless. He thought to himself that these ancient people really drank by caddies. Fortunately, Zhao Min also ordered a few exquisite side dishes. Xiaofeng raised a bowl of wine and toasted, Brother Song, this cup of wine is for you. As the saying goes, no words can express my gratitude. If you need my help in the future, I will not hesitate to climb a mountain of knives or swim a sea of flames. Brother Xiao is too serious. I believe that if you saw us in danger today, you would definitely help us without hesitation. Song Qingshu replied with a smile. Ha ha, Xiao Feng laughed. You and I have experienced life and death together many times. Why don't we become sworn brothers? Song Qingshu was shocked. He did not think that he would inadvertently increase Xiao Feng's favorability. Hearing this, he smiled and said, I can't ask for more. It's just that Song Mao has many enemies in Jianghu. Brother Xiao, please don't mind when the time comes. Brother Song is famous now. I hope you don't mind me climbing up the social ladder. Xiao Feng said with a smile. Obviously, he did not mind his enemies. I am in my early 30s, a few years older than you. If second brother doesn't mind, I'll be the big brother. Xiao Feng cupped his hands. Big brother. Song Qingshu's temperament was more reserved, but at this moment, he was also a little excited. After all, whether it was in his previous life or this life, Xiao Feng was a hero that he greatly admired. The two of them drank 3 big bowls of wine in a row. Then, they looked at each other and smiled. That's right, I have a sworn brother. Xiao Feng suddenly thought of something and said, the Crown Prince of Dali, Duan Yu. You should have met him before. He should be the youngest. You are the second brother, and he is the third brother. If he knew that he had such a powerful second brother, I wonder how happy he would be. Second brother? Song Qingshu always felt that this way of addressing him was a little awkward, especially when he remembered that Duan Yu did not have a good impression of him. He really did not want to become sworn brothers with him. However, Xiao Feng was in high spirits, so he did not want to dampen the mood. Not wanting to change the topic to Duan Yu, Song Qingshu changed the topic and said, Big brother, didn't I ask you before? With your martial arts and alertness, no matter how many Shaolin masters there were, they should not have been able to stop you. Why were you seriously injured and chased to a dead end? When he asked Xiao Feng before, he happened to have fainted because of his injuries, so he asked him again. It's a long story. Xiao Feng smiled bitterly and said, After I went south to help you, I did not directly return to Liao. Instead, I continued to stay in the Central Plains to investigate the matter of the leader. Unfortunately, along the way, the people who knew about it died one after another. Xiao Feng was interrupted by Xiao Yuanshan before he could finish. I killed those people. I deliberately deceived you to make you acknowledge the enemy as your father. I deserve to die. Xiao Feng opened his mouth, but in the end, he did not say anything. After all, Xiao Yuanshan was his father, and he could not blame his father for killing people. However, Song Qingshu was different. He said seriously, it's fine to kill people like Master Tan, Granny Tan, and Zhao Qiansun. After all, they participated in the attack on you and your wife 30 years ago. However, Qiao Sanhuai and his wife had raised your son with great effort and treated him like their own child. Master Xin Ku taught him martial arts, but you should not have killed these 3 people. Xiao Feng looked at Song Qingshu gratefully. He had wanted to say these words, but it was not convenient for him to do so due to the relationship between father and son. Now that Song Qingshu had said it on his behalf, it could be said that a big stone had been lifted from his heart. In Xiao Yuanshan's opinion, these Han people all had ulterior motives. Even if they were good to his son on the surface, they were just using him. However, he was afraid of the miraculous martial arts that Song Qingshu had displayed before. In addition, he had just been saved by the other party, so it was not good for him to refute. However, the expression on his face showed that he did not approve of it. Azu looked at him, worried that her future father-in-law would be embarrassed, so she considerately changed the topic. Later, we received news from Ma Yuan's widow that the leader was Dali's Duan Wangya. Xiao Feng heard this and said with lingering fear, Speaking of this, I am afraid. So it was Madame Ma's plan to divert the trouble, causing me to almost kill Azu, making a big mistake. Zhao Min couldn't help but ask, even if you went to find Dali's Duan Zhengchun, why would it cause you to almost kill Miss Azu? Song Qingshu had read the original work, but Zhao Min was involved in it, so she naturally didn't know. Xiao Feng looked at Azu with pity and said, Because Azu is Duan Zhengchun's biological daughter. She only found out about it after we arrived in Dali, but this silly girl didn't tell me and only secretly disguised herself as Duan Zhengchun to fight with me. Zhao Min exclaimed, This is too dangerous. If people who love each other can't be honest with each other, then it is easy to cause a tragedy. Even Song Qing-shu was curious why the plot did not develop like the original work. Yes, Xiao Feng said happily. Fortunately, when I went out that day, a mysterious person secretly sent me a message, telling me that the leader was someone else. Mysterious person? Song Qing-shu subconsciously looked at Xiao Yuanshan. Xiao Yuanshan shook his head. It wasn't me. Xiao Feng replied. That person just tied a note to a dart and shot it from afar, and soon disappeared. That person's martial arts was very good, and I was still thinking about the battle later, so I didn't chase after him. But fortunately, he reminded me, and then I knew that the leader was someone else. I was going to ask Duan Zhengchun about it, but then I found out that it was Azu in disguise. Azu also pursed her lips and smiled. You don't know how happy I was when I found out that my father was not the leader. Z, who was on the side, curled her lips. You two are silly. How old is my father? He was only a teenager 30 years ago. Will those famous people in the Central Plains listen to him and regard him as the leader? Song Qing-shu nodded in agreement. In fact, this was also the point that countless readers in later generations complained about. Azu explained, we also had such doubts at the beginning, and we also asked Madame Ma, who knew that Madame Ma said that Lord Duan was a playboy and knew how to keep his appearance, so that he was actually very old, but on the surface he looked only in his 40s. No wonder. Zhao Min listened and nodded secretly. Xiao Feng continued. The mysterious person's letter said that the leader was an important figure in Shaolin. I didn't dare to believe it easily, so I decided to secretly go to Shaolin to verify it. Who knew that when I sneaked into that person's meditation room, there were already countless masters lying in ambush, and they suddenly shot arrows at me, causing me to be seriously injured. Song Qing-shu couldn't help but praise. So many masters of Shaolin deliberately and unintentionally attacked you, but they couldn't kill you. It shows how powerful you are. Only a strong person like Xiao Feng could kill a bloody path in that extreme environment. If it was Duan Yu or some other academic masters, they might have been killed in a single encounter. Xiao Feng smiled bitterly. It's not that easy. I just risked my life to escape from that meditation room. It's impossible to escape from Shaolin. Fortunately, my father helped me. Xiao Yuanshan snorted. With so many top masters besieging you, I didn't have the ability to save you. Thanks to Azu and Z's cleverness, they set fire to the Shaolin temple to create chaos, and we took advantage of the chaos to rush out of the temple. Hearing his praise, Z raised her chin proudly, but Azu lowered her head and smiled shyly. Song Qing-shu saw this and couldn't help but secretly sigh. Although they were sisters born from the same mother, their temperaments were not at all like each other. Chapter 1485. Xiao Feng didn't have time to think about this before, but now that he thought about it, he was shocked. That scoundrel is really vicious. He wants to kill me with a borrowed knife. Thinking of his son almost dying in Shaolin, Xiao Yuanshan was furious. King Xiao, think carefully. Do you have any enemies who want to kill you like this? Zhao Min reminded him. Xiao Feng frowned and thought, those who want to kill me, Madame Ma is definitely one. Quan Guanqing is also one, but they don't need to do that. Could it be Murong Bo, that scoundrel? Xiao Yuanshan said while gnashing his teeth. When he thought of how he talked with his enemy all these years, and how he taught him martial arts several times, he was furious. I don't think so, Song Qing-shu said. Murong Bo's goal is to revive the Yin kingdom. If he can provoke the two countries to war, he will naturally spare no effort. But now Liao has been crippled by the Jin kingdom, and is not the same as before. Plus, Shaolin is in the Jin kingdom. Even if something happens to you in Shaolin, Liao probably won't dare to cause trouble for the Jin kingdom. More importantly, I just met Murong Bo a while ago. I'm afraid he won't have the chance to appear in Dali, which is thousands of miles away. Then who could it be? Xiao Yuanshan looked like he was going crazy. Although his martial arts were high, he was not good at things that required him to use his brain. Could it be your political enemy in the country? Zhao Min suddenly looked at Xiao Feng and said, it is indeed possible. Xiao Feng's eyes moved, obviously having a few guesses, But although he has ulterior motives, I still have to thank him. After all, to some extent, it is because of him that I didn't make a big mistake and didn't have to stuff cattle and sheep with empty promises." As he spoke, he looked at Azu beside him, his eyes full of tenderness. Zhao Min stealthily poked Song Qing-shu, then moved closer to his ear and whispered, "Did you see that? Although Xiao Feng is inferior to you in many aspects, you are far inferior to him when it comes to devotion." "That's true." Song Qing-shu smiled bitterly, unable to defend himself. "By the way, Commandery Princess and second brother, did you come to the Jin Kingdom for the Southern Song Dynasty's expedition to the north?" Seeing how intimate Zhao Min and Song Qing-shu were, Xiao Feng couldn't help but smile in his heart. He thought that his second brother's charm was really great. He even managed to win over the #1 beauty of Mongolia. Xiao Feng did not like women. Furthermore, he only had Azu in his heart. Thus, he only had blessings for the two of them to be together. "Yes," Zhao Min smiled sweetly. "I didn't expect Xiao Wangye to be so well-informed even though he is far away from the central. When I passed by the Great Song's territory earlier, I noticed that there were frequent movements of soldiers. It is clear that they are preparing for a northern expedition. It is not hard to guess." Xiao Feng chuckled. "At that time, the Southern Song Dynasty, Mongolia, Golden Snake Camp, and our Liao will launch a joint attack." Ha ha ha! After all, he was a chitin. Previously, the Jin Kingdom had almost destroyed the Liao Kingdom. The two countries had formed an indelible hatred. When he heard that the Southern Song Dynasty was going to launch a northern expedition, he was naturally excited. Zhao Min glanced at Song Qing-shu with a faint smile and said, "Well, when the time comes, the four of us will join forces to destroy the Jin Kingdom." Song Qing-shu glared at her. Zhao Min knew that he was Tang Qua's defense and naturally understood that he would not allow the Jin Kingdom to be destroyed. Obviously, she said this on purpose. "All right, let's not talk about national affairs today. Let's have a good drink." Song Qing-shu was worried that he would easily expose himself if he continued to talk, so he raised a bowl of wine and toasted Xiao Feng. "Second brother, you look so gentle. I didn't expect you to be so forthright. As the saying goes, when drinking with a bosom friend, 1,000 cups are not enough." Xiao Feng was overjoyed and raised his bowl to drink with him. Xiao Yuanshan was also a drinker. These years of hiding in Shaolin Temple had made him feel suffocated. Now that the father and son had reunited, escaped from death, and heard the news of the enemy, he could not help but be addicted to alcohol. The three men took turns to drink, and soon the sky was dark. The father and son of the Xiao family were born with an amazing capacity for liquor. Song Qing-shu had experienced the baptism of high-purity liquor in his previous life, so he was naturally not afraid of the liquor in this world. He drank bowl after bowl, and soon finished dozens of jars, attracting the attention of the surrounding diners. In the end, Azu finally could not stand it anymore. Worried that Xiao Feng had not recovered from a serious injury, she insisted on interrupting their drinking party. Song Qing-shu and the others also drank until they were dizzy. They were already 70 to 80% drunk, so they took the opportunity to end the drinking party. Azu called for the waiter to help support the father and son of the Xiao family back to their room. Azi had originally planned to support Song Qing-shu to show off, but seeing Zhao Min stretch out her hand, she rolled her eyes and very naturally retracted her hand. She would not touch the brows of the mistress at this time. Song Qing-shu was already so drunk that he could not even walk steadily. Zhao Min held one of his hands on her shoulder and said unhappily, "I don't know why you drank so much." Song Qing-shu hummed a few times, but it was not clear what he was saying. Zhao Min was angry and amused at the same time. She had never seen this bastard in such a sorry state. Thinking of this, she suddenly felt that the smell of alcohol on him seemed to smell better. She supported him back to the room and gently laid him on the bed. At this time, Azi considerately brought a basin of water. Zhao Min was just about to ask her to help Song Qing-shu clean when Azi stuck out her tongue at her. Azi will not disturb master and mistress anymore. After saying that, she revealed a knowing smile and trotted out, considerately closing the door. Zhao Min was startled and could not help but not know whether to laugh or cry. This bastard, all the girls he found are mischievous. She knew that Azi had misunderstood their relationship, but for some reason, she did not explain. Looking at the man who was sleeping like a dead pig on the bed, Zhao Min snorted, "I've never served anyone in my life. You're really lucky." While saying that, she helped him take off his shoes. Originally, she thought that it would be very smelly. After all, when she accidentally touched her father's shoes when she was a child, she almost died from the smell. This incident still made her feel a lingering fear. "Hey, there's no smell?" Zhao Min carefully let go of her pinched nose and muttered strangely. How could she have known that Song Qingshu's internal energy had reached a level that could shake the ancients and dazzle the contemporaries? The Jinqi in his body was endless, and he had already cleansed his body of all the toxins. Although he couldn't reach the point of having a fragrant body, as described in cultivation novels, he wasn't far from it. After lifting his legs to the bed, Zhao Min wet a towel and gently wiped Song Qingshu's forehead and neck. Looking at his fiery red skin, she could not help but snort. "Aren't you afraid that the enemy will take the opportunity to kill you?" Although she said so, she had been surrounded by top masters since she was a child. Naturally, she knew that when one's martial arts reached a certain level, the body would automatically respond to the external danger. If she revealed her killing intent at this time, even if the other party was drunk, he would definitely launch a thunderous counterattack. Gently wiping the wine stains on Song Qingshu's body, Zhao Min squatted by the bed with her hands resting on her cheeks. She quietly looked at the man in front of her, as if she was reminiscing and muttering to herself, "Life is really unpredictable. When I first met you, you were just a poor follower of Zhou Zhira. I didn't even look at you. Who would have thought that I would take the initiative to wipe your body now?" Usually, Song Qingshu's eyes were too bright and too aggressive. It was rare for her to look at him so closely. Thinking of his usual high-spirited and hateful look, and seeing him sleeping like a baby, Zhao Min could not help but be mischievous. She used her hair to gently touch the tip of his nose. Song Qingshu wrinkled his nose as if he was sleep-talking, but he did not seem to wake up at all. The corner of Zhao Min's mouth curled up, and she continued to use the tip of her hair to brush his nose. Song Qingshu subconsciously reached out to touch his nose, but she was already prepared. In an instant, she moved her hair away, so he touched nothing but air. After rubbing his nose a few times, he put his hand back. So stupid. Zhao Min's brows were full of smiles. It was rare to see him so stupid, so she continued to tease him. "Stop it." Probably because he touched nothing the last time, Song Qingshu's speed was much faster this time. He turned over and held her in his arms. Zhao Min was stunned, and then she instantly blushed. She reached out to push him. "Let go of me." "Stop it." Song Qingshu turned over, and Zhao Min's entire body was instantly carried to the bed. You smell so good." As he said that, he moved his nose to sniff Zhao Min's body, making her feel itchy and shy. "Are you really drunk or pretending to be drunk?" Zhao Min pinched him hard and said with some anger. However, after being pinched, Song Qingshu did not respond at all. He continued to move against her body. His hot breath on her skin made Zhao Min's heart suddenly tremble. She was in a trance, and when she realized that he had already kissed her lips, Zhao Min's eyes instantly widened, and she hurriedly tried to push him away. Unfortunately, he was as heavy as a pig on her body, and she could not resist at all. This bastard. Thinking of how she felt that he was sleeping as quietly as a baby, Zhao Min wanted to slap herself. However, when he opened her teeth and drove straight in, her body suddenly softened. Bits and pieces of the two of them, since they met, appeared in her mind, and Zhao Min's pretty face became even redder. In the end, she simply reached out and hugged the man on top of her and began to recall tenderly. After who knew how long, Song Qingshu suddenly said doubtfully, "How did your chest become so big?" Zhao Min's entire body stiffened, and the sweetness in her heart instantly disappeared. She looked at the man in front of her in disbelief. It turned out that this bastard had been mistaking her for Zhou Jiruo all along. She did not know where she got the strength from, but she instantly knocked off his Lushan claws on her chest. She pushed him away and jumped off the bed. While tidying up her messy clothes, she glared at him fiercely. "Song Qing-shu, you're a bastard." After saying that, she stomped her feet and ran away without looking back. Song Qing-shu reached out to stop her, but he was too drunk, and he instantly lost his balance and fell off the bed. Hearing a heavy thud behind her, Zhao Min subconsciously turned around. Her entire body froze for a moment when she saw him fall to the ground, but in the end, she still snorted and did not go back. "Mistress, what are you doing?" The other party happened to bump into Z at the staircase and asked in confusion. "No, nothing." Zhao Min felt a little guilty and covered her clothes. "By the way, your master is too drunk and fell to the ground. Go take care of him." After all, she was still worried about Song Qing-shu, but she did not want to go back by herself, so she looked for the girl in front of her. Chapter 1486. Zhao Min said a few words and went back to her room in a mess. After she closed the door, the smile on Z's face disappeared instantly. She tiptoed to Song Qing-shu's room and found him lying on the bed. Z ran over and shook him. Young master, young master." Song Qing-shu didn't have any reaction except for a light snore. A hint of coldness flashed in Z's eyes. Previously, this person in front of her had performed the soul transfer technique on her, and she had become his female slave in a daze, losing her chastity. She did not want to be enslaved by this person forever. In the past, there was no other way. Song Qing-shu's martial arts were too high, and she had no ability to resist. But now, he was drunk and unconscious. She stretched out her fingers, and a few oily green needles appeared on it. They were Xingqiu Sect's jade phosphorus needles, which were extremely poisonous. Z hid the needles between her fingers and quietly pricked Song Qing-shu's neck. She hesitated for a while, but in the end, she gritted her teeth and pricked him with the needles. Song Qing-shu, who was sleeping soundly, suddenly opened his eyes and hit the poisonous needles in her hand. His other hand pressed on the acupuncture point on her shoulder. Z instantly lost all her strength. "It's you?" Song Qing-shu found that his vision was a little blurry, and he could barely see Z's face. Just now, he felt the killing intent and reacted instinctively. But the influence of the drunkenness was still there. He hurriedly circulated his martial arts. Although he couldn't evaporate all the alcohol in his body so quickly, it was enough for him to wake up. Z's expression changed several times, but she quickly squeezed out a smile. "Master, you're really capable. I heard from my master that when martial arts reach a certain level, the body will naturally react to the killing intent. I didn't believe it, so I wanted to test it out with you this time. Let me ask you, who in the world is better than you in martial arts?" Song Qing-shu sneered. "Don't you think it's too late for you to flatter me now?" Z hurriedly said, "How am I flattering you? These are completely from the bottom of my heart. None of us are fools. We all know what you wanted to do just now." Song Qing-shu's voice was as cold as ice. His aura enveloped her, making it difficult for her to even breathe. For a moment, Z even thought that she was already dead. However, she suddenly came to her senses and smiled sweetly. "Master can't bear to kill me." "Why?" Song Qing-shu was so angry that he laughed. "You think too highly of yourself." Z said with a smile. "If you wanted to kill me, you would have done it just now. You wouldn't have talked so much to me. You talking so much to me proves that you don't want to kill me, although I don't understand why." Hearing her words, Song Qing-shu's stern face gradually relaxed. "Yes, you are indeed very smart. I don't want to kill you because I still have something for you to do." "What is it?" Z crawled up to his side and said with a flattering expression, "Master, just say the word. I'm willing to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of flames. You don't have to say those hypocritical words. You know that I won't let you climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of flames. Song Qing-shu waved his hand. I only need you to do one thing. That is to find a way to stay by Xiao Feng and Azu's side and gain their trust. Azi was stunned. She didn't expect it to be so easy. That's it? Of course not. Song Qing-shu snorted. You stay by their side. If I need you in the future, I will tell you what to do. Azi's eyes rolled. So Master is interested in my sister. Don't worry. Leave it to me. I guarantee that you will get the beauty. Song Qing-shu frowned. What nonsense are you talking about? Z said with a smile. Master, are you worried about your friendship with Xiao Feng? Don't worry. I will find a chance to send him away and drub my sister. You can play however you want. Even if you want us sisters to accompany you, it won't be a problem. After that, you can use the method that you used on me last time to make her forget this part of her memory. I guarantee that no one will find out. Song Qing-shu's expression became more and more unpleasant. He took a pillow and smashed it on her head. You come from an evil sect. It's normal that you don't have any sense of propriety. However, Azu is your sister after all. How could you this? He couldn't find any words to describe it. Azi pouted disapprovingly. So what if I'm her sister? She grew up in the Morong family and lived a luxurious life. I, on the other hand, was struggling to survive in the cracks of Xingshu sect. Who cares about my life or death? Song Qingshu frowned. He knew that she had suffered a lot since she was abandoned in Xingshu sect, so he couldn't say anything. He could only secretly sigh that Duan Zhongshan was a scum. On the surface, he was a great lover, but deep down, he was irresponsible. As for Azu and Azi's mother, Wan Xingzhu, it was even worse. Azu and Azi were not twins. The age difference of 1 or 2 years proved that she had abandoned 2 of her own flesh and blood in the past 2 or 3 years. She was really cruel. But speaking of which, she and Duan Zhongshan could be considered to be birds of the same feather in some aspects. Master, don't worry. I grew up in Xingshu sect. I'm very alert. I won't let Xiao Feng and the others find out that you have designs on Azu. Azi hurriedly expressed her loyalty. I've already told you, it's not because of Azu. Song Qing-shu was also very depressed. The reason why he arranged for Azi to stay by Xiao Feng's side was to prepare for the Southern Song Dynasty's upcoming northern expedition. At that time, Liao would definitely take the opportunity to attack the Jin Kingdom. Xiao Feng was the king of the southern courtyard of Liao. Moreover, he had made great achievements in the past few years. He was probably the best candidate to be the commander of the southern expedition. With Azi by his side, not only could she provide information about Liao at any time, she might even play an unexpected role. All right, I understand. Azi gave him a knowing look. This made Song Qing-shu not know whether to laugh or cry. Song Qing-shu was also too lazy to explain to her. Get lost. I'm going to rest. Azi, on the other hand, sat behind him with a charming smile and began to massage his shoulders. Master, you're such a hero. How can you not have someone to serve you in bed? Let Azi serve you well. Song Qing-shu said with a faint smile. What? You actually took the initiative to serve me in bed? Didn't you want to kill me just now? I've completely thought it through. It doesn't matter who I give my body to. I don't think there's a better man than Master in this world. Why should I care about those trivial things? Azi's massage was very gentle. In order to please her master, Ding Chunxiu, she had often massaged his legs and shoulders. She had long practiced this skill to perfection. Song Qing-shu closed his eyes comfortably. Your flattery is getting better and better. I'm telling the truth. Which man in the world can compare to Master? Azi became more and more showy. Song Qing-shu's body was indeed a little tired after drinking, so she began to massage him. After an unknown amount of time, Z's little hand slowly moved downwards and reached into his lapel. Song Qing-shu frowned slightly, but didn't stop her. Azi hugged him from behind and whispered in his ear, Azi just did something wrong, so she needs to be punished. As she said this, she had already taken off her clothes. Her warm and soft body was tightly pressed against Song Qing-shu's back. The youthful aura and supple skin unique to young girls made Song Qing-shu's heart flutter even with his composure. How do you think I should punish her? Song Qingshu's face had a trace of smile. Of course it's to whip Ah Zi ruthlessly. Ah Zi purposely emphasized on the word whip, and then she giggled after saying that. What a little witch. Looking at the gentle expression of the young girl in front of him, Song Qingshu snorted and pulled her over. After a long time, a pitiful voice suddenly sounded in the room. Brother, don't be like this. Your brother Xiao will be back soon. Song Qingshu was startled. He looked at the young girl under him and said angrily, Azi, what the hell are you doing? Azi smiled slyly. She still imitated Azu's tone and said, Brother, we can't do this. Get out quickly. Song Qingshu was speechless. He naturally knew what she was doing. He slapped her butt and said, Don't learn from your sister. Aya, brother, you are so rude. Brother Xiao would never treat me like this. Azi looked at him with a wronged expression. Her eyes seemed to be filled with tears. Azi and Aju were biological sisters, so they were 60 to 70% similar to each other. In addition, at this time, Azi deliberately disguised Aju's expression and tone, imitating it vividly. Under the dim yellow light, it seemed that Aju was really lying here. Shut up. Song Qingshu was finally a little annoyed. It was rare for him to be a gentleman. He didn't want his Taoist heart to be ruined by her. Azi pursed her lips and smiled. Master, you don't mean what you say. I clearly feel that your body's reaction is getting stronger and stronger. Song Qingshu's face became hot. He fiercely pressed her under his body. I've always been this strong. Azi made a sweet sound in her throat. She said in a sobbing tone, Brother, we really can't do this. I can't do anything that will let Brother Xiao down. Song Qingshu was worried that his voice would spread to the next room and be heard by Xiao Feng. It would be embarrassing. He could only tightly cover her mouth and completely vent his annoyance and depression on her like a storm. In the end, Song Qingshu was worried that he would suffocate her, so he quietly let go of her mouth. At this time, Azi didn't have the strength to make trouble anymore. She could only respond to him instinctively by moaning. After a while, Azi coquettishly hooked his neck. Master, my kung fu is weak. I am worried that I will encounter some danger in the future and can't complete your task. You really know how to choose the right time to make a request. Song Qingshu sneered again and again, but he didn't feel anything. There was no love between the two of them in the first place, and this kind of exchange of benefits made him feel completely relaxed. He didn't need to care about her thoughts and feelings at all. Well, I will teach you a strange kung fu called Shinzu scripture. Song Qingshu smiled evilly. He held her legs and made a very strange posture. Master, you lied to me. The next morning, when Song Qingshu went out, he happened to meet Zhao Min. He saw that Zhao Min looked cold. She just glared at him and didn't say anything. This made Song Qingshu confused. He wondered when he had offended her. Chapter 1487. Azi was obviously very sleepy, but she pretended to be fine. Because of last night's nourishment, she was in high spirits. The tiredness between her eyebrows made her look even more pitiful and weak. Seeing this, Song Qingshu sighed inwardly. Although this little girl is like a little witch, she really has some color. Worried that someone would notice something unusual, Song Qingshu quickly withdrew his gaze and cupped his hands toward Xiao Feng. Big brother, we still have important matters to attend to. I'm afraid we can only part here. Xiao Feng patted his shoulder and laughed. Yesterday was the happiest time of my life when I drank with my second brother. Next time when we have the chance to come to Chiton, I will treat you to the strongest heavenly scorching wine, and we will not leave until we are drunk. Chanyu hunting fire, heavenly scorching wine. I have long heard of this famous wine. All right, it's a deal. Song Qingshu also laughed. All right, after we separate, what if someone comes to find trouble with you? Song Qingshu suddenly said worriedly. Don't worry, after a night of rest, my injuries are much better. Plus, there's my father, and most of the experts from Shaolin have been injured by you. If we encounter danger again, Xiao Feng, will not have the face to stay in Jianghu anymore. Xiao Feng said with a smile. Song Qing-shu couldn't help but admire his physique. It was simply abnormal. Previously, he had suffered such heavy injuries, but in the end, only one night later, and he had drunk so much wine, he had actually recovered to such an extent. He was indeed gifted. King Xiao, we will meet again. Although Zhao Min was angry with Song Qing-shu, she didn't want to show it too much, and still bid farewell to Xiao Feng as if nothing had happened. Seeing her, Xiao Feng's expression became a little strange. Even Xiao Yuanshan and Azu's expressions became strange. In the end, Xiao Feng cupped his hands and praised. Sister-in-law and second brother's relationship is really good. Zhao Min's face instantly turned red, and she anxiously stamped her feet. King Xiao, don't joke around. Who is your sister-in-law? Princess, you are thin-skinned. Fine, I'll change the way I address you next time. Xiao Feng laughed. Zhao Min was baffled and could only glare at Song Qing-shu, thinking that he was the one who caused the misunderstanding. After bringing Song Qing-shu and Zhao Min away, Xiao Yuanshan could not help but chuckle. This princess, Xiao Min, shouted so loudly last night, but today she came here to pretend to be a pure young lady. Interesting, interesting. Hearing his words, Azu blushed. It was not appropriate for a virgin like her to participate in such a topic. However, she had also heard the commotion last night, which made her unable to sleep for a long time. Aziz secretly stuck out her tongue. Of course, she didn't dare to admit that the person she called last night was her. Recalling the scene last night, she thought that the young master's body was really made of iron. She couldn't help but be a little dazed for a moment. Xiao Feng had an awkward expression on his face. Father, it's not good to talk about others behind their backs. Xiao Yuanshan glared at him fiercely. Love between a man and a woman, it's a matter of course. What's wrong with that? You brat, you should learn from that second brother of yours and find me a daughter-in-law sometime. As he spoke, his gaze drifted over to Azu's body, causing Azu to be extremely embarrassed. She hurriedly said, I'm going to pack my luggage. After speaking, she ran away in a fluster. Xiao Yuanshan laughed when he saw this. This lady is affectionate and loyal, but her courage can't compare to that Princess Xiao Min, so you need to take the initiative. Xiao Feng's old face heated up. His usual heroic spirit was now somewhat constrained. This child understands. After Song Qing-shu and Zhao Min rode their horses out of the small town, he saw that she kept a straight face without the slightest trace of a smile. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. Wasn't she fine yesterday? Why did she suddenly become like this today? Who provoked our princess? Tell me. I'll go and teach him a good lesson. Zhao Min rolled her eyes at him and coldly said, Then you should first slap yourself 10 times. Song Qing-shu stared blankly. Why? Didn't you want to help me teach the person who bullied me a lesson? It just so happens that the person who bullied me is you. Zhao Min snorted. How did I offend you? I was drunk last night, so I really don't remember. Song Qing-shu only remembered what happened last night with Azi. He really didn't have any impression of what happened before. Zhao Min snorted coldly, clearly not intending to explain. Song Qing-shu helplessly smiled and could only endure the cold violence along the way. Fortunately, not long after, Zhao Min finally spoke. However, she wasn't talking about what happened last night, but about the expressions of Xiao Feng and the others just now. Hey, why did Xiao Feng and the others have such strange expressions just now? I don't know either. Song Qing-shu shrugged his shoulders. Zhao Min's elegant eyebrows slightly knitted. He kept calling me sister-in-law, and even said that we have a good relationship. Did you say something to him? Song Qing-shu looked wronged. The first person I met when I went out today was you. I didn't have time to say anything to him. That's strange. Zhao Min frowned, and suddenly she exclaimed. She fiercely turned around and glared at Song Qing-shu. It's all your fault. What does it have to do with me? Song Qing-shu only felt that it was inexplicable. Zhao Min said shyly and angrily, It's all because you and Azi were in the room last night fooling around in the room. They didn't know it was Azi. Moreover, they saw me helping you into the room last night, so naturally they thought it was me and you. Last night you helped me into the room? Song Qing-shu said in surprise. You bastard. When Zhao Min thought of Azi's extremely exaggerated moans last night, she was afraid that she would leave a shameless image in the hearts of Xiao Feng and the others. She was completely mad and began to chase after him with the small leather whip in her hand. Song Qing-shu also understood what was going on. He dodged while smiling bitterly. It's really not my fault. Who asked you to leave me after sending me into the room? Then Azi came in to kill me. If it wasn't for my high cultivation and my body's instinctive reaction, maybe you wouldn't have been able to see me anymore. As expected, Zhao Min's attention was attracted. Azi wanted to kill you. Of course, she was forced to become a female slave by me. She naturally wanted to get rid of me when she had the chance. Song Qing-shu replied a little gloomily. Last night, because you were by my side, I was at ease and got so drunk. But I put my life in your hands. Who knew that you would abandon me? Who asked you to last night? Last night. Zhao Min wanted to say something, but stopped. Song Qing-shu's expression was strange. What did I do to you last night? Zhao Min's face turned red. She raised her chin and snorted. No, it's just because you were drunk and your whole body stinks, so I left because I didn't like you. Is that so? Song Qing-shu pretended to be aggrieved. It really hurts my heart. Zhao Min's mouth twitched. Her arrogant temperament made her unwilling to admit that she helped him last night. But when she thought that he was at ease and got drunk because she was by his side, she suddenly felt a little sweet in her heart. After a while, Zhao Min suddenly thought of something and said angrily, You almost got away with it. Didn't you say that Z wanted to kill you last night? In the end, not only did you not punish her, but you also did such shameless things with her. Song Qing-shu's expression was strange. I was punishing her. Zhao Min instantly understood, and her face turned red. Shameless. After that, she didn't want to talk to him anymore. She whipped the horse's butt and galloped away. Along the way, Zhao Min seemed to deliberately quarrel with Song Qing-shu. She didn't take the initiative to talk to him. Unknowingly, a few days passed, and the two arrived at Daxing Mansion. Returning to the old place, Song Qing-shu couldn't help but feel emotional. When he first entered the Jin Kingdom, he didn't expect that after all kinds of treacherous coups, he would unexpectedly take control of the Jin Kingdom by accident. I don't know how hard the Goodbye Sisters have been dealing with this mess these days. How is Zishan Dragon Queen getting along with them? Song Qing-shu's mind was full of thoughts. On the side, Zhao Min saw his expression, and for the first time in a few days, she took the initiative to say, Humph, looking at you like this, I can tell that you are thinking about a lover. Song Qing-shu smiled bitterly. I am thinking about business, okay? I am having a headache about how to arrange to deal with the Southern Song Dynasty's northern expedition. Zhao Min curled her lips. Why do you have to pretend like this? Do you think that I don't know? I am afraid that you are more happy at this time. You can take this opportunity to completely reshuffle the power of the Jin Kingdom's imperial court and replace the position of the leader with your own people. If the Southern Song Dynasty doesn't go on the northern expedition, where can you find such a rare opportunity? Song Qing-shu smiled embarrassedly. Has anyone ever told you that women who are too smart can't get married? What does it have to do with you whether I get married or not? Zhao Min snorted. Besides, in this world, the men who want to marry me can line up from the Ryong Mansion all the way to the Imperial Palace of Linen. Do you believe it? Of course I believe it. Song Qing-shu smiled bitterly. Princess, you are the first beauty of Mongolia, and you are also the beloved daughter of the Ryong Duke. If he marries you, he will not only rise to the top of Mongolia, but also have a beautiful wife. As long as the men in the world are not stupid or blind, I think they will want to marry you. Humph, like slave, like master. You are as glib and flattering as Z. Zhao Min snorted, but there was a hint of happiness between her eyebrows. Song Qing-shu took the opportunity to say, Let's find Nin to settle down first. I will go back to Tangqua's mansion. After all, you are a Mongolian princess, and your identity is sensitive. It is not convenient for me to take you there. While they were talking, they arrived at the side of an inn. It is not convenient for you to take me. Is it because I am a Mongolian princess, or because you are afraid that your cheap wife will be jealous? Zhao Min smiled faintly. Oh no, not your wife. She should be Tang Quobian's wife. Song Qing-shu almost choked on his saliva, but he was thick-skinned and replied with a grin. Why? Are you jealous, your highness? Jealous my ass. Zhao Min's expression changed, and she took out her luggage and was about to throw it at him, but Song Qing-shu dodged with a smile. You settle down here first. I will go find out some information, and then I will come back to you. Seeing Song Qing-shu's anxious expression as he left, Zhao Min could not help but stomp her feet, muttering to herself, so annoying. Meanwhile, Song Qing-shu sprinted all the way to Tang Quo's mansion. He recalled how he had been so cautious when he first entered this place, afraid that his identity would be exposed. Now that he had officially become the master of this place, he couldn't help but smile. Of course, he couldn't just swagger his way in. After all, Tang Quobian was nominally in Daxing Mansion. He found a remote box and jumped in from the back garden. Although the mansion was heavily guarded, Song Qing-shu's martial arts skills were superb, and he was familiar with the way, so it wasn't a problem for him. Chapter 1488. Now that the Song dynasty's army has been acting strangely, according to the laundry brothel, this northern expedition is a foregone conclusion. Therefore, I hereby appoint Fu Sanzhongyi as the right deputy marshal and Husher Liesheining as the Kaifeng magistrate to guard the south against the Song dynasty's northern expedition. A familiar voice rang out in the room. Song Qing-shu could tell that it was the voice of Tang Quobian. However, there was a slight difference between the voice and the real Tang Quobian's. Of course, only those closest to him would be able to tell the difference. Song Qing-shu peered into the study through a crack in the window and saw a man who looked like Tang Quobian sitting at the head of the table. Beside him stood a tall, white-robed elder. It was Western poison Ouyang Feng. Ouyang Feng must be standing here to protect the fake Tang Quobian in case anything happens to her. Song Qing-shu figured out the crux of the matter at a glance. But I wonder who is pretending to be Tang Quobian? Gobai or Tashkis? Previously, it was Gobai who had been pretending to be Tang Quobian. After Tajtish was subdued, in addition to her proficiency in the art of disguise, she was sent back to share Gobai's burden. It was unknown whether the two of them were cooperating well. As for who the person in the study was, Song Qing-shu couldn't tell after staring at it for a long time. At first, he tried to judge from the size of the chest, but after looking at it for a long time, he realized that the chest of the Tang Quobian was very flat. Song Qing-shu stopped trying and looked at the other people in the room. One of them was tall and burly with a white beard like the reincarnation of old Huangzhong. He recognized him as the famous Jin General Fu Sanzhongyi. The other man was dignified with a calm and determined look in his eyes. He was also the famous General Husher Liesheining. Both of them were the pillars of the Jin Kingdom's army. Coupled with their high ranks in the imperial court, Song Qing-shu recognized them at a glance. I wonder if it's Gobai or Tashkis. At least they have good taste. Song Qing-shu sighed in admiration. In his memory, the Southern Song dynasty's northern expedition was defeated by these two men. Of course, the world was too chaotic now, and he was not sure if it would develop according to history. He could only do his best to prepare. At this point, Tang Quobian spoke again. According to reliable information obtained by the washing clothes brothel, the Southern Song dynasty has secretly contacted the Redcoat Army. When the time comes, the Redcoat Army will most likely rise in revolt. Ahai, you've been fighting against the Redcoat Army for many years and have made outstanding contributions. This time, I will appoint you as the commander and pacification envoy of Shandong Road to guard against the Redcoat Army. Thank you, Marshal. I will not disappoint you. A young man said happily. Song Qing-shu thought about it carefully and vaguely remembered that this young man was the grandson of Fu Sanzhongyi. His name was Fu Sananjin, and his nickname was Ahai. He was one of the best of the younger generation of the Jin Kingdom and had a reputation in the army. Inside the room, Tang Quobian continued to make arrangements. Wanyan Haida, you have always been brave and good at fighting. This time, You will be stationed in the north to guard against the Mongols and Liao. Song Qing-shu recognized this Wanyan Haida. After the hailing coup d'etat, Song Qing-shu had completely changed the guards around the emperor in order to replace him. He had promoted a group of brave warriors from the army who were skilled in martial arts, and Wanyan Haida was one of them. The reason why he was chosen was because Song Qing-shu remembered that Wanyan Haida was one of the famous generals who fought against the Mongols in the later years of the Jin Kingdom. Unfortunately, the Mongols were too strong, and he had died on the battlefield. "Yes, Marshal," Wanyan Haida replied. Fu Sanzhongyi suddenly spoke. "Marshal, the Mongols are very powerful, and Wanyan Haida is still inexperienced. Isn't it inappropriate to send him to the north?" He was experienced and could tell that Tang Quobian was promoting his trusted aide. Normally, he would not have said anything, but this was a matter of life and death for the country, so he had to mention it. Wanyan Haida's face froze, but Tang Quobian was an elder in the army and had a high reputation. A newcomer like him could not compare to him. Tang Quobian explained, "The Mongols have diverted their main force to the west and do not have the energy to care about the Central Plains. Even if they send an army south, it will at most be a detachment. Wanyan Haida may be inexperienced, but he has always been brave and is loved by his colleagues. He is more than enough to handle this situation." Fu Sanzhongyi frowned. "Even if the Mongols do not go south, what about the Khitans? The king of the South Yard, Xiao Feng, is brave and good at fighting. If he leads the army, Wanyan Haida will not be a match for him." Tang Quobian replied, "I have other arrangements for the Khitans. When the time comes, they will not be able to divert their attention to the south." "Oh." Fu Sanzhongyi and Hexi Lai Jining looked at each other, their eyes full of curiosity. Tang Quobian smiled. "This is a matter of great importance. To prevent the information from being leaked and all our efforts from go to waste, I cannot tell you now. Since the marshal already has a plan, it is not our place to say anything," Fu Sanzhongyi replied, but his tone was still somewhat disapproving. Tang Quobian thought for a moment and added, "Now that the Jin Empire is surrounded by great powers and the older generation of generals have passed away, there is a shortage of talents in the army. We should take this opportunity to promote the new recruits to deal with the crisis. No matter how much potential the new recruits have, if they're not tempered on the battlefield, it will be difficult for them to become true generals." Fu Sanzhongyi nodded. Indeed, the marshal's words make sense. At this moment, Hexi Lai Jining suddenly spoke up. "Marshal, compared to Liao and the Red Coat Army, the Golden Snake Camp in the east is a greater threat. Song Qing-shu defeated the Qing army of 100,000 soldiers and then defeated Li Kaxiu's Jiangnan Green Camp. Now he has 1,000 miles of fertile land under his command, a well-trained army, and sufficient food. In addition, he was recently conferred the title of Prince of Qi by the Song court. It can be said that his reputation has reached its peak. If he attacks from the east, we will be in big trouble." Fu Sanzhongyi agreed. "Indeed. Moreover, I heard that this man is not only a godlike commander, but also a peerless martial artist. He also has the ability to summon the wind and summon the rain. If he brings an army here, Hai will not be a match for him." Fu Sanzhongyi was young and hot-blooded. Normally, he would not submit to anyone. Now that he heard his grandfather say this, he did not have the slightest objection. It was obvious that he agreed with his grandfather's judgment. Outside the window, Song Qing-shu had a strange expression on his face. Hearing someone appraise him like this behind his back, he did not know whether he should be happy or happy. The feeling of eavesdropping in front of someone was very strange. Inside the room, when Ouyang Feng heard Song Qing-shu's name, he could not help but cough twice. It was obvious that he was having a hard time holding back. Tang Quobian unhappily rolled his eyes at him, then said, "You do not need to worry about the Golden Snake Camp. This marshal has a plan. I guarantee that the surname Song will retreat without a fight." Fu Sanzhongyi and Hexi Lai Jining were all the more astonished. However, seeing Tang Quobian's unfathomable appearance, it was clear that he did not intend to tell them the truth. They could not help but be secretly alarmed. This Tanquobian had previously kept a low profile. However, during the Hailing Mausoleum's coup, he had suddenly emerged as the biggest winner. Now, it seemed that this was not a fluke. Following this, the group discussed a few more details about military affairs. When it was about time, Fu Sanzhongyi and the others stood up and bid their farewells. After they left, Ouyang Feng finally spoke. The Golden Snake Camp is one thing. Although those people fear their strength, they do not know of the relationship between you and that songbrat. Instead, it is Liao's side. What plan do you have to make them so busy that they have no time to march south? I do not know either. It was just an excuse to send them away. At this time, Tang Quobian had regained her soft and pleasant voice. Song Qingshu immediately recognized that it was Goodbye's voice. After so long, I am still not used to you speaking in such a sweet tone with Songbrat's face. Ouyang Feng felt a chill run down his spine. Then why did you say that? Wouldn't it be better to just send a general to guard against Liao? Goodbye shook her head. This time, the Southern Song Dynasty is almost planning to send out all their forces. Our main forces can only be placed in the south. In addition to guarding against the Redcoat Army, the Mongols, and the Western Xia, the remaining forces can be said to be stretched thin. I heard that the king of the southern courtyard of Liao is brave and skilled in battle. It would be useless for us to send anyone. Previously, Qingshu's secret letter told me that he would solve the threat of Liao. That's why I said that. So it was Songbrat's idea. Ouyang Feng suddenly snorted coldly. This brat really knows how to be a hands-off boss. The Jin Kingdom is managed by you and your sister. The Golden Snake Camp is managed by the Ninth Princess, and even the recently acquired Yangzhou is managed by the little girl surnamed Zhou. He is free and easy to flirt with women all over the world. Outside the window, Song Qingshu's face darkened. He thought to himself, "You stinky toad, do you really have to defame me like this?" Fortunately, Goodbye spoke up for him. Qingshu travels around the various countries, balancing the various powers and at the same time doing his best to strengthen himself. Every time, he is walking on a tightrope. The slightest mistake will lead to eternal damnation. I don't know about other things, but at least I know how much risk he took when he was in the Jin Kingdom. Hearing this, Song Qingshu's heart was filled with warmth. He thought to himself, Goodbye is really the best wife. Not only is she beautiful enough to cause the downfall of cities and countries, she is also very understanding. She is really one in a million. Ouyang Feng snorted. I don't know what kind of magic potion Songbrat fed to you women, but you are all dead set on him. If only my Kerr had half of his 10% of his abilities, he wouldn't have fallen to such a tragic end. Song Qingshu secretly sighed. He thought to himself, Ouyang Ku's death is a knot in his heart. I don't know how to resolve the hatred between him and the Gu couple. Sigh. Who is it? Ouyang Feng's eyes suddenly became as sharp as a knife. His whole body instantly rushed towards a window. Feeling an earth-shattering internal energy rush towards him, Song Qingshu was shocked. He didn't have time to explain and hurriedly circulated his internal energy to meet the attack. Stimulated by the internal energy, the window instantly burst open. The two of them exchanged several blows in an instant. Ouyang Feng was repelled by the force of the collision and was forced back 3 steps before regaining his balance. His face revealed a shocked expression, but when he saw Song Qingshu's face, his expression softened. So it's you stinky brat. Song Qingshu laughed. I haven't seen you for a long time, and your martial arts have improved by another level. I was just secretly sighing, and you actually found out. You don't have to flatter me. I was still forced back several steps by you. Ouyang Feng had always been conceited, and his expression did not look too good. Chapter 1489. With a squeal, Goodbye threw herself into his arms. Song Qingshu felt that the beauty was incomparably soft, but his expression was a little strange. Can you wait until you change your clothes before hugging me like this? Otherwise, I'll always feel a little strange hugging a bearded man. Ah, you're so annoying. Goodbye also reacted. She raised her head and flirtatiously rolled her eyes at him. However, in the eyes of others, it was a bearded man acting coquettishly. You remind me of the magician's son in my previous life. Thinking of that weirdo, Song Qingshu's entire body felt a little uncomfortable. However, before he had time to speak, the sound of a teacup shattering suddenly came from not far away. It turned out that when the mansion's maidservants saw that the guests had left, they brought some tea and snacks to the master, who knew that they would see such an explosive scene as soon as they arrived. As if scalded, Goodbye instantly pushed Song Qingshu away and stood up again. Her small face had long since turned red. Fortunately, she was wearing a mask, so it was not obvious. At this time, the maidservant suddenly came to her senses. Would she be silenced if she saw this scene? As soon as this thought arose, her small face became pale with fright. She wanted to plead for mercy, but found that she was so scared that she could not speak. You can leave. Goodbye took a deep breath, calmed herself down, and waved her hand at the maidservant. Yes, the maidservant felt as if she had been pardoned and trotted away. At the same time, she was cursing in her heart. Master looks so strong, and his wife is the most beautiful woman in the Jin Kingdom. Who knew that he would have such a hobby? You really can't judge a book by its cover. Ah, poor Lady Goodbye. She has a husband like this. In front of outsiders, she pretends to be a harmonious couple, but in reality, she has to stay alone. Watching the maidservant leave, Ouyang Feng frowned and said, "You let her go just like that? Shouldn't you be silencing her?" Goodbye explained, "These maidservants are all carefully selected by me. There's no problem with their loyalty. Moreover, it is common in the circle of nobles that they like men. She won't spread it." Soft-hearted, Ouyang Feng snorted, but did not insist. Song Qingshu said with a smile, "You're still the gentle and kind Songbi." At this moment, Goodbye had already taken off her mask. Hearing this, she smiled sweetly, making all the flowers lose their color. Ouyang Feng could not help but lament, "If I were 50 years younger, I might fight you for this woman." Song Qingshu smiled smugly. "You won't be able to snatch it from me." Ouyang Feng's face darkened. "Why? You're not as handsome as I am," Song Qingshu said. Seeing Ouyang Feng's face darkening, he hurriedly added, "Not to mention that you've never been interested in women. If you were 50 years younger, you'd probably be addicted to martial arts." Ouyang Feng nodded, and a smile appeared on his face. "That's true. However, you're obsessed with women every day, yet your martial arts are so heaven-defying. It really makes me unhappy." Song Qingshu chuckled. To avoid provoking him further, he turned to Goodbye and asked, "Since you're overseeing this place, is Tajkis in the palace?" Goodbye nodded. "That's right. I didn't expect that the Peach Blossom Madam, who was so popular in the Qing Prefecture, was actually the Ming Dynasty's Zishan Longwan. However, I didn't expect you to be able to subdue her." Her tone was playful, but also somewhat strange. Song Qingshu smiled awkwardly and hurriedly said, "Although Tajkis is as beautiful as a peach, she's vicious and merciless. She's not as reassuring as you. You're letting her oversee the palace. Aren't you worried that she'll use her power to do something unfavorable?" Goodbye smiled lightly. "There's still my sister in the palace. She's currently in charge of the washing clothes yard. Nothing in the Qing Prefecture can escape her notice. Moreover, Qiu Qianren has been appointed as the deputy inspector of the front palace department. He secretly controls a portion of the imperial guards in the palace. Even if she has any thoughts, she won't be able to stir up any waves." "Oh." Song Qingshu glanced at her in surprise. "I didn't expect you to be so skilled in the art of checks and balances." Goodbye sighed faintly. "After all, I was born of the royal family. I've been influenced by what I've seen and heard. However, I'd rather not use these skills for the rest of my life." Song Qingshu hurriedly said a few words of comfort, then asked, "Why did you appoint Qiu Qianren as the deputy inspector of the front palace department and not Sir Ouyang?" Before Goodbye could answer, Ouyang Feng spoke first. "I've never placed much importance on fame and fortune. Qiu Qianren is passionate about this path. It's a perfect match for each of us." "I see." Song Qingshu finally understood. He was about to say something when he suddenly sensed something and looked toward the door. There was a burst of hurried footsteps. A guard at the door reported, "Marshal, something bad has happened." Because Goodbye had taken off her mask, the door to the study was closed. That was why no one had seen her. "What's the matter? Why are you so flustered?" Goodbye asked as she put her mask back on. "General Pu Cha has led a group of ministers and his troops in the direction of the palace," the guard quickly reported. "What?" The three people in the room were shocked. The General Pu Cha mentioned was Pu Cha Hyut, the head of the Pu Cha family and the former deputy inspector of the Front Palace Department. The three great families of the Jin Kingdom were Tudan, Pu Cha, and Tangqua. The Tudan family declined during the Hailing Rebellion and was replaced by the Tangqua family. However, the Pu Cha family was loyal to the royal family at that time. Later, they returned to the capital with their troops and played an important role in quelling Wanyan Liang's rebellion. After the incident, the Pu Cha family rose to power. Although the benefits they received were not as great as the Tangqua family, they were not too far off. The power of the Jin Kingdom was originally controlled by the emperor, Taizu's royal family, Taizong's royal family, King Zhao's Wanyan Honya's faction, and the three great families. Now that the emperor had been replaced, the Taizu's and Taizong's factions were mostly wiped out during Wanyan Liang's coup. Wanyan Honya's faction had long since declined, and the Tudan family had been implicated by Wanyan Liang. Now, it could be said that the Pu Cha family and the Tangqua family held the power of the Jin Kingdom together. Only by completely purging this faction could Song Qingshu be considered to have full control of the Jin Kingdom. However, the Pu Cha family was deeply rooted and powerful. There was no chance for him to make a move. But now, the Pu Cha family had taken the initiative. Due to his contributions in quelling the rebellion of the King of Hailing, Pu Cha ought to have been promoted to the position of inspector of the imperial palace. Coupled with the Pu Cha family status in the military, the moment he made a move, it would cause a huge commotion in the imperial court. Song Qingshu and the other two hurriedly mobilized their personal army and rushed towards the palace. Along the way, Goodbye explained to Song Qingshu what had happened. It turned out that the two sisters and Tajtish had worked together to gradually dissolve the military power in the hands of the Pu Cha family. For example, Pu Cha was promoted to inspector, but most of the imperial army in the palace was controlled by the Tangqua family, led by Qiu Qianren. Up until now, they hadn't shown any reaction, but who knew that the moment they did, it would be such a huge reaction. Don't blame yourself. We'll see how the situation goes. Although this is a crisis, it might not necessarily be an opportunity. Goodbye felt that she had messed up, so Song Qingshu comforted her along the way. Goodbye smiled bitterly. How could she not know that these were words of comfort? After all, Pu Cha was a wily old fox. Once he made a move, it would be fine if he didn't make a move, but once he did, he would definitely be confident of victory. It would probably be difficult for things to turn out well later on. The group sprinted all the way and soon entered the palace. They found Pu Cha and a group of imperial court officials blocking the front of the inner court with their soldiers. On the other side, Qiu Qianren and his trusted subordinates were blocking them. Both sides were at daggers drawn, as if a fight would break out at any moment. How dare you? How dare you charge into the palace with your soldiers? Are you planning to start a rebellion? Goodbye had now reverted to Tang Kuo Bian's appearance and personality. She stepped forward and sternly rebuked. Song Qingshu couldn't show his face at the moment, so he changed his appearance and hid in a corner, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Hearing Goodbye's rebuke, Pu Cha's lips curled into an undetectable smile. It was as if he had been waiting for Qiu Qianren to arrive while in a deadlock with him. Rebellion? If the one in the palace is really His Majesty, then of course I'm rebelling. But what if the one in the palace is a fake? His words were earth-shattering and caused an uproar. Whether it was Pu Cha's subordinates or Tang Kuobian's, everyone was in an uproar. What the hell are you talking about? An official from Tang Kuobian's family cursed. After all, the Jin Kingdom had only been in the Central Plains for a short time, so they hadn't fully assimilated their language into the Han language. Most of the time, their language was still crude. But at this moment, no one cared about his tone. They all looked at Pucha odd in horror, including those from his faction. Everyone in the field subconsciously thought that he had gone mad, except for Song Qing-shu, Goodbye, and the others. They looked at each other in horror, not knowing where they had slipped up and how they had been discovered. Looking at Tang Kuo-bian's horrified expression, Pucha seemed to have a card up his sleeve. He took the opportunity to say, "Tang Kuo-bian, do you dare to answer a few questions of mine?" Goodbye forced himself to calm down. What questions? Since the coup in the Hailing Mausoleum, why has the emperor been living in seclusion and rarely shown his face? I heard that even Empress Peiman has been banished to the Cold Palace. Pucha's words did indeed cause many officials to ponder. Recently, they had seen the emperor very few times, not even Empress Peiman. Although some people had suspected it before, they didn't think too much about it. But now that they were led by Pucha's words, they suddenly felt that the emperor might really be under house arrest. Many officials know that the emperor was seriously injured during the rebellion of the Hailing Mausoleum. He has mainly been recuperating recently, so it's normal for him to live in seclusion. Goodbye explained calmly. As for Empress Peiman, she was involved in a rebellion with the Hailing Mausoleum rebels, so she was banished to the Cold Palace. She didn't deliberately announce it for the sake of the royal family's reputation. His words were reasonable and dispelled many people's doubts. But who knew that Pucha had already prepared for this? He calmly moved on to the next question. Then why has there been no record of the emperor's concubines in the past year? How can a normal man not touch a woman for a year? What's more, our emperor has never been happy without women. Chapter 1490. Goodbye's voice was extremely cold. How dare you, Hut? The daily records are a secret of the royal family. Apart from the servants, even the emperor is not allowed to read them. How dare you collude with the scribe to read the daily records? Pucha Ahut seemed to have expected such a question from her. He answered calmly, "That's because I'm worried about the fate of the Jin dynasty. If it turns out that I'm just worrying for nothing, I'm willing to bear the crime of spying on people's daily lives. Tang Kuo-bian, it's time for you to explain yourself." Before Goodbye could answer, Pucha Ahut continued, "You're not going to say that the emperor's injury prevented him from doting on the imperial concubines, are you? What kind of injury could be so serious? I brought a few famous physicians from the capital to treat the emperor." "Bastard, are you doubting the diagnosis of the imperial physician?" Another subordinate of Goodbye retorted, "Of course I trust the imperial physician's medical skills, but the imperial hospital is under your control, Tang Kuo-bian. I doubt they would dare to tell the truth." Pucha Ahut once again pointed the finger at Tang Kuo-bian. Goodbye's heart trembled. The imperial physician had indeed been subdued by her various means of coercion and bribery. Otherwise, the emperor's so-called injury could not have been concealed at all. "You're slandering me." Goodbye did not speak. Naturally, her subordinate imperial censors would help her in the war of words. Soon, the supporters of both sides were in a heated argument. "There's another piece of evidence." Pucha Ahut raised his voice, and the crowd quietened down. Everyone was waiting for his new evidence. "Bring them in." The crowd parted, and a few soldiers brought out a few people dressed like servants. Some sharp-eyed people recognized them as people from the imperial kitchen. Song Qing-shu instantly understood the other party's plan. At this moment, he could not help but admire Dongfang Mushua's ability. After pretending to be Kangxi for such a long time, she did not reveal any flaws at all. She had considered all aspects, but he did not consider the details. "Repeat what you said before in front of everyone." Pucha Ahut snorted. The eunuchs raised their heads to look at Goodbye, then lowered their heads guiltily, their eyes flickering. "Don't be afraid. Do you think you would dare to silence us in front of everyone?" Pucha said. "Besides, I'm here. The soldiers under my command will definitely protect you." "Protect all of you! Protect all of you!" The soldiers around them shouted in unison. Their morale was clearly at its peak. Tang Kuo-bian's men did not look too happy. With this guarantee, the leader of the eunuchs gathered his courage and said, We are people from the imperial kitchen and have always been responsible for His Majesty's meals. In the past, His Majesty liked to drink wine, and he especially liked to eat sheep jewels and tiger penises. But after the change of the sea mausoleum, even though we sent out the dishes that His Majesty liked to eat, the result was that His Majesty didn't even move his chopsticks and had us change them all. From that day onwards, His Majesty's taste was completely different. Instead, he preferred light and delicate dishes. Song Qing-shu had a strange expression on his face. He thought to himself that Wang Yin-xian's tastes were quite heavy in the past. He actually often ate things like sheep's jewels. Perhaps he had expended too much energy in his harem and needed these things to replenish his energy. It must have been hard on Gobai. When he first saw this thing, he was probably so disgusted that he wanted to vomit. As for Tajkis, she probably didn't like eating sheep jewels or tiger penises either. He glanced at Gobai and saw that she was frowning. It was obvious that she had recalled some unpleasant memories. Did everyone hear that? Pucha Hut said in a clear voice. A person may change in other things, but their tastes and preferences will never change so drastically. The most likely possibility is that the person is not the same person as before. The group of people followed his gaze and looked at Tang Quobian. Even many of Tang Quobian's subordinates looked hesitant. They were clearly wavering. After all, Gobai was just a woman. Although she knew a little about politics, she was still a flower in a greenhouse. She had never experienced this kind of situation before. Her opponent was pressing her harder and harder, causing her to feel more and more panicked. Her mind was blank, and she couldn't think of any of the schemes that she usually had. Fortunately, Song Qing-shu sent her a secret transmission. Upon hearing his voice, Gobai gradually calmed down. Ahut, you're really evil. You've secretly checked His Majesty's daily life and investigated His Majesty's personal attendance. Is this something a subject should do? You've long had the intention to be a disloyal subject. Gobai rebuked him righteously. Ha! You're still trying to change the topic. Pucha Ahut looked up to the sky and laughed. Ahut's loyalty can be witnessed by the sun and moon. Even Emperor Taizu and Emperor Taizong in heaven can understand that I'm doing all this for the sake of the Jin dynasty. I don't want the empire that Emperor Taizu and Emperor Taizong worked so hard to build to fall into the hands of outsiders. Gobai sneered. You say it's for the Jin dynasty, but Emperor Taizu set down an iron law. Any external subject who colludes with internal attendants shall be punished with death. Now, you've bribed the servants and colluded with the imperial kitchen's internal attendants in charge of His Majesty's food. You've already committed treason. Pucha Ahut's expression changed slightly. He hadn't expected to be countered by the other party. Back then, Taizu had established such a law, but in reality, it was useless. Which of the powerful subjects of every generation didn't bribe a few informants in the palace? It was very difficult to find evidence for such a thing, and the emperor had turned a blind eye to it. In a moment of carelessness, Pucha Ahut had revealed the relationship between the two parties in public. However, he was very confident this time and wasn't affected by this episode for long. If it's proven that His Majesty isn't an imposter, I'm willing to accept punishment. However, if it's proven that His Majesty is an imposter, he paused, then said in a cold tone, Lord Tangqua, this is a crime that will result in the execution of 9 generations. You don't have to provoke me. As the saying goes, the innocent will know their innocence. Since that's the case, let His Majesty decide. Gobai cupped his hands at the inner court. Seeing his tone so certain, Pucha Ahut hesitated. However, he quickly reacted. You're just bluffing. He was 99% sure that the person in the palace was an imposter. As long as he revealed that person's true identity, naturally, no one would pursue this matter of him overstepping his bounds. Gobai suddenly said, I wonder, Ahut, how do you intend to prove His Majesty's identity? Pucha Ahut smiled and waved his hand to introduce the people behind him. This is His Majesty's wet nurse. This is the head eunuch who retired from the palace. These are the royal uncles who watched His Majesty grow up. Naturally, they wouldn't mistake him for someone else. Gobai was secretly shocked. As expected, the other party had made thorough preparations. They were trying to force him to his death. You're the one who invited these people. What if they go against their conscience and falsely accuse me of something? Pucha Hut sneered. These are the most virtuous and respected seniors of our Gene Kingdom. With just my reputation alone, I wouldn't be able to invite them. It was only because I heard that His Majesty might have been substituted by someone else that I agreed to come and investigate. At this moment, the elders also began to reprimand Goodbye, recalling the glory of the past. Only then did Goodbye gradually remember that although these people did not hold high positions, they were all very senior and could, to a certain extent, control the direction of public opinion. I wonder if Qing Shu can handle it. Goodbye worriedly gazed in the direction of the inner court. At this moment, Song Qing Shu had already stealthily entered the inner palace. The emperor's bedchamber was guarded tightly by Wan Yin Ping and the people of the laundry brothel. Wan Yin Ping, on the other hand, was in the room discussing various countermeasures with Taj Tish. Unfortunately, this time, Pucha Hut had come prepared. The news from outside was increasingly disadvantageous to them, causing the women's faces to be shrouded in worry. Who is it? Taj Tish's martial arts were after all, so she quickly realized that something was wrong. With a grave expression, she gazed in a certain direction. Wan Yin Ping was alarmed. She pulled out the dagger at her waist and turned around. One must know that the experts of the laundry brothel were guarding outside, yet the other party was able to sneak in. How terrifying was that? Long time no see. Why did you greet me like this? Song Qing Shu smiled as he walked out from the shadows. Brother-in-law. The grave expression on Wan Yin Ping's face instantly turned into joy as she excitedly leaped into his embrace. Ping. Song Qing Shu embraced the young lady's slightly trembling body as he sighed inwardly. She clearly knew that he was not the real Wan Yin Ping, yet she was unwilling to change the way she addressed him. It must be because of that obsession in her heart. In the past, Taj Tish was the famed purple robe dragon queen in the pugilistic world, causing countless people in the pugilistic world to be infatuated with her. In the imperial court, she was the flirtatious peach blossom madam, causing countless princes to bow down to her. Compared to Wan Yin Ping, she was much more reserved. Moreover, the relationship between her and Song Qing Shu was more of a cooperative relationship. Their feelings weren't that pure, making it hard for them to reveal their true feelings like a young lady. Song Qing Shu noticed that there was another beautiful woman by her side. He recognized her as Hui Weshi of the Persian Ming dynasty. Miaofeng Shi and Luyan Shi had died in the Hailing King's coup d'état, leaving her as the sole survivor. Taj Tish had led Song Qing Shu's mission back to the Xing prefecture. Since she urgently lacked manpower, she had released Hui Weshi and used some methods to subdue her. The situation has become slightly thorny. This time, Pucha Hut has come prepared. I'm afraid it won't be easy to deal with them. After the two had embraced for a while, Taj Tish coughed lightly and spoke. I came here to deal with this matter. Song Qing Shu gave her a reassuring look. Leave the rest to me. What do you intend to do? Taj Tish's curiosity was piqued. From the information she had just received, the other party had brought Wan Yin Rui's wet nurse and eunuchs. Even if he could disguise himself, Wan Yin Rui's physical characteristics couldn't be disguised. Especially now that Wan Yin Rui had probably turned into a pile of bones, it would be impossible to imitate him. Different situations call for different measures. There's always a way to deal with them. Song Qing Shu didn't reveal his entire plan. The more he did so, the more mysterious Taj Tish and the others felt. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.